Hey.
Hey.
Hello, everybody.
Are we live? This is the first time I've done this through StreamYard.
I'm just making sure it's...
Yes, we are. We are live.
I still see a black
Lance
screen on my end. Let me just
I do too, David. I was wondering.
Get up the channel as well. Yeah, on Mike's one, I don't know if it started.
Oh no, we're
I'm
up.
live on my channel.
Now it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
whatever reason, the back end showing a black screen, but it's up. All right.
Okay, we're officially live. How's it going, everybody?
What a way to kick off the show! Really,
we should probably let everyone know why.
Really well put together and everything.
There's no proper intro video anymore because there's a copyright claim on the music. So we are working on a new version of the intro, and at some point we will have that up. So I know people love that intro, but there's no point giving our money to someone who doesn't even do anything.
Right. Mafia wants their
yeah, the Mafia wants their
do.
And I have no problem licensing the beat, but the problem is that there's like 3 different people claiming that they made that beat. And any other Godfather type beat has like multiple claims on it. So it's really difficult to stick with that theme. So we might have to switch it up a little bit, but we're working
Maybe just change the name of the podcast. Just completely.
We could
completely change everything. Start from scratch.
We could. Yeah.
The name sucks anyways, just to be honest.
It is. It's a bad name. Yeah.
I like the name personally. I just don't understand where the Mafia thing came from.
Well, it was supposed to be the woke mob, which I thought was hilarious. And I was like, we should go with that because it's just we're the woke mob they warned you about. You know, I've always liked the name the woke mob.
We could change.
It kind of rolls off the tongue a bit better, I guess.
Yeah. By the way,
we have a guest here.
I probably hated the name. I probably hated the name more than anybody at first, and it's growing on me. I
find it funny that people take it like seriously, like they don't realize it's supposed to be like tongue in cheek. Like we're not. It's not serious. Like
we don't view ourselves as gangsters.
And then some people take
Mafia.
offensive, like to take offense.
I mean,
like,
I do
oh,
go
you're being
around
mean to Italians.
telling
like,
people to kiss the ring, but that's just me personally.
It has nothing to do with the show.
Italian? Are any of you Italian?
I am half Italian. Yes.
He gives us the pass.
Binder's like half everything. So
yeah,
I'm a little bit of everything.
Any topic we touch on where someone's angry, we just like, well, Binder's half of that, so he don't get angry at us.
I'm married an Italian, so it's impossible for me to be racist towards Italians. I have the pass too.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, Kavernacle, tell us about yourself and your channel. People don't already know about you. They should by now, but just in case.
Yeah. So they might do because I've been on Mike's channel and Lance's once in 2019 talking about 2019 twice. I think it's once.
Okay, I will dispute this, but anyway.
But yeah, just have similar politics, I guess, to the rest of you guys. I mean, I don't know if you have labels, but I would call myself like a Marxist YouTuber from the UK. Don't cover straight up politics as much. I try and package it in something, I guess, a bit more cultural and like just go check it out. There's loads of different topics, and I get accused of being a fake leftist a lot because it's not always straight up politics, but I just do it to keep it fresh. And I'm on I think it's my 4th year full time now, so that's what you got to do, and just make it nice for yourself. That's why I quit live streaming, because I just couldn't deal with like the comments anymore. So so just go check that out. I think most people who watch my channel watch everyone here. So I hope you guys are watching right now. I post it on the Discord server. And great to be here. I obviously like all your work. I haven't watched Matt's own channel, but I obviously see him all the time on the Majority Report. And obviously I appreciate you guys even more now. I'm not going to start this beef, but because of TYT, which I don't watch anymore. So watching Mike and David especially.
Opening with T.
Yeah, but I'm irrelevant in terms of that because you guys all like know them. I don't, but like I watched them for like my whole life, and then suddenly I have to like stop. So that's why Mike and David come in nicely there to fill that void, I guess.
Unfortunately,
I gotta say, I really feel like the Mafia name fits us because that monologue you gave sounded exactly like someone
I know, right?
of their life
True.
and had only nice things to say about us.
He'll do a video, an expose
said,
later on each one of us.
Exactly.
Destroying all of us.
Yeah, I like, so Kavernacle did a video on divorced dads of Twitter like a couple of weeks ago that I listened to. It was so good because I never thought about like the archetype of a divorced dad, but it's totally a thing, and they all act the same fucking way. It's insane to me. I didn't even know there's like a guy that he's a breakdancer or something that was getting into a dispute with his daughter.
Oh yeah.
And Elon Musk was like promoting him. It's a weird one as well. I think I didn't go in hard enough about why people at that age go conservative, because I just made a video on The Rock and him talking about wokeness, and I was like, there's something about 50-year-old men who go a certain way, and there must be like a psychological reason. And sadly I had to go crawling back to Twitter for that one, because I had that listed like for months. I've always wanted to make it. But yeah, it is a weird thing on Twitter, especially where the biggest losers get like an absolutely massive platform, and the CEO coming into their comments telling them they're awesome just for being deadbeat dads. It's so fucking strange.
Yeah, do any of you get worried that like after seeing all of these divorced dads and 50-year-olds having midlife crises and becoming conservative, that's going to happen to us? I don't think it will happen to us, but like, do you ever like doubt yourself, especially after seeing how many people in this space turn into right-wing grifters? Do you ever doubt yourself? Because every once in a while I'm like, oh my God, could I succumb to propaganda or brainwashing? I mean, of course, I guess I could, but like, I don't think I will. Do you all have the same thought, or am I crazy?
I'm not worried about my politics, but I'm worried about like being depressed. is that like the same as like I'm more worried about like a proper midlife crisis, or like just actually like feeling old. And it's actually already beginning to happen. Like when I when I hurt my back, I'm like, oh my God, I never hurt my back in my 20s, and I can't, like, I had to stop like working out on a regular basis because every time I'd lift weights I would hurt my back. Like that is the reason I stopped working out. So now it's like cardio for me. So it's just like stuff like that. I start to feel old and like, oh my God, like this is my life now. Like it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse and worse. And I forget things. Like I forgot my PIN code for my card, like shit like that, where it's like, what's wrong? Like, do I have Alzheimer's? Am I okay?
Have you had to Google your age yet?
Yeah, I've had to work back from the year. I forgot my age multiple. Like I think the first time I forgot my age, I was like 33. I forgot how, I thought I was like 32 or 34. So then all of last year, I thought I was a year older than I actually was. And then I was really happy when I found out I was younger.
I can't imagine ever forgetting my age. Like I just know so much like what year I'm born. I guess I haven't reached that stage yet. I think you're all older than me. So maybe it's just like my youthful mind thinking like,
rub it in, Kavernacle.
You don't know yet. I used to listen to like, late 30-year-olds or like 40-year-olds and be like, oh, these people are so old. And now I'm there and it's like, oh geez, everything they talked about is exactly true. They were all right.
Okay, that fills me with hope.
You will forget your age at some point.
Yeah, it's sad. I also feel very old, where it's like I've come to realize that like the smallest things become
what's going on this stream.
Big.
I'm old. I'm falling apart. I feel like shit.
Yeah. Like I mean, how often do we start streams talking about our medical problems?
I was gonna say, I'll high five you. I feel fantastic. Outside of the blaring sun in my eyes, but I'm pretty good.
But just on a serious point about the divorced dads, and you're talking about like people becoming right wing. I'm not really scared of that, mainly because I think a lot of it has to do with your trajectory under capitalism. And if you have like a really good job and a lot more money, I think you start getting more concerned and insular. So you get more concerned about your taxes and care less about people. I think when you grow up in this age, and especially how much everyone on this stream cares about, like, what we're talking about with the Israel stuff, I just don't think you can reverse that as much as you could back in the day where you grew up not on social media. So when you're going through your late 20s and 30s, seeing all this terrible shit like in 4K, I don't think you can turn that off when you get to like, let's say 50 or stuff, like previous generations maybe could.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point. Also, another thing to note is that like I think a lot of us, at least for myself, like I'm shifting further to the left as I get older. Like if you go back and watch 2015 Humanist Report, I was a little bright-eyed, sock dem. Years before that, I was part of the draft Warren movement and shit like that. Embarrassing. Now it's like I'm completely anti-capitalist, very sympathetic towards, Marxism and communists. And I feel like with time, I'll probably get even more radicalized. I feel like every year there's a new radicalizing moment. Like the Israel genocide that we're seeing has radicalized me so much more. So I feel like I'm shifting in the opposite direction, which is why I'm not necessarily too worried about shifting to the right. And also my homosexuality will keep me in check because I'll remember, oh yeah, these people fucking hate me. I can't caucus with them politically. So there's that too, I guess. I don't know. Did
you see what happened with that dude in Colorado, the politician who was like openly gay but a conservative, and then the Colorado party just said to burn the pride flag And so it was one of those moments where he had to speak out against it and be like, "Hey, well, this is disgusting." But I was like, what did you think was going to happen with that party? Like, where do you see the tide going right now?
Yeah. If you are a gay Republican, you shouldn't be surprised when leopards eat your face, because that's what they're gonna do. That's the way they behave. They don't like you. They made that very clear. Yeah, if you caucus with them and choose to be a part of their party, then don't be surprised when they spit in your face. The same goes for like Dave Rubin and Blair White and all these other conservative pick-me's who just say what they think they need to say to, get ahead. But I mean, at some point in time, it's going to bite them in the ass. And if it doesn't happen publicly, privately, they're feeling it. I can promise you they're feeling it.
So what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so there's a UK election going on, and I was really hoping that Cav can fill us in, because it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Tories are going to lose and Labour is going to win, but that's not really going to change much because Labour sucks ass. Am I correct in that assessment?
The different situation than the rest of the world. Like every other election coming up.
You're seeing, it's like every single. I mean, I wouldn't call it every single election because in
Canada's is remarkably similar.
In South America, it seems like you either elect the grandson of a Nazi war criminal or you elect a communist. Where in like Western democracies, it's like, oh, elect one guy who's like a hedge fund manager and terrible, or elect another guy who's like a lawyer and terrible. But how much or how close they are in being terrible is just like doesn't even matter at the end of the day. And Ireland, I know we're not talking about that. Ireland is even worse for this. It's literally like the two major parties are literally the same. I couldn't even tell you any of the differences. But with the UK, yeah, you're right. We could just end the podcast there. Like that's all people need to know. But no, if we want to elaborate a bit further, basically, Jeremy Corbyn has been kicked out completely from the Labour Party. He can't even run as a Labour MP. Because the Labour right essentially did a coup after the failure of 2019, but they actually tried to make him lose both elections in the first place because they never wanted a socialist prime minister. Most of them they're like Blairites, more right wing than Tony Blair, I'd say. And yeah, they had a coup. And then Keir Starmer, we call him Keith on the UK left because Keir Hardie is the founder of the Labour Party. That's why he's called Keir Starmer, but we don't want to associate them together. So Keith Starmer, he basically came in the leadership campaign promising, basically, I am Jeremy Corbyn, but without all the baggage. Like, I'm not an anti-Semite like, old Corbyn, who is anti-Semite for opposing Israel, but I'll still promise all the good things. I'll abolish the House of Lords, which is our unelected second chamber, nationalise water, nationalise rail, all this great stuff. But then slowly as time has gone, he's gone back on every single promise and has played heavily into the culture of the Tories, started talking about trans people in a similar way, started basically saying about the refugee crisis, the Tories are bad because they don't deport them quick enough. And if you elect me, I'll do that. So it's like the Overton window in this country has shifted so far right. And it's depressing that I'm old enough that I remember this sort of rhetoric was seen as like, so like, it's just not British, saying all this terrible stuff about immigrants and refugees. We're not like Nigel Farage, that fringe candidate. And now he's coming in with a new party, Reform UK, which used to be the Brexit party. And it's looking like they could maybe even overtake the Tories, at least in terms of votes. I'm not sure about seats. So it's a far-right party being more far-right than the current far-right version of the Tories. So that might be interesting. But yeah, as you say, we're going to have a Labour landslide, maybe even bigger than 1997. And which is more depressing because the 1997 Labour Party weren't exactly socialist. We're going to have even less change than that. It's literally like electing the management class to run the country without controversy. Think of it like Joe Biden win the presidency. It's basically the same thing on like 90% of issues. Maybe they won't make the country like totally shit like it is going down right now. But there's no incentive for left-wing people to vote Labour. And because they're going to win, I would say unless your Labour MP is an actual socialist, just don't vote for the Labour Party and at least don't let them win as much as they think. And hopefully vote for different parties because, we do have a multi-party democracy, even though it does basically boil down to Labour versus the Tories, just kind of like the US
majoritarian,
election. Yeah. But like Lance was saying, like most Western countries, it literally is an election between two shit options. One's just like kind of worse, and that's it. Like it's really depressing and just shows you. And actually, the one thing I'll end that on is why it's so depressing is more than ever we need more like radical policies. And Jeremy Corbyn promised that in 2017 and 2019, and was basically ridiculed for it. and obviously called an anti-Semite for his opposition of Israel, and then he just seems so vindicated now. But now the way the UK politics is working, like we're just voting for nothing. Like nothing's going to get better, and that makes me want to consider my future in the UK like overall. So I need to get my Irish passport sorted so I can like fuck off to Spain or something, live in the socialist utopia of Spain, rather than like spend the rest of my years like just miserable in the UK about how our politics. And I can go into it later if you want. There's something about the UK politics. We're just ruled by the people who've ruled us for 1,000 years. And I don't think that's just ever going to change. Like, we're so stuck in our ways.
I'm curious, Cav, because my perception of the UK has always been that, like, when it comes to social issues, it's not that controversial. Like, gay rights and abortion has never reached the levels as they have in the United States of controversy. But when it comes to trans issues, it's a totally different story. Why do you think that is? And is it like basically J.K. Rowling's influence? Is that an oversimplification? Like, is it just like she's driving a lot of the cultural stuff right now?
So I've seen Owen Jones talk about this. I think the perception of Turf Island is actually a bit wrong, because if you break it down by in terms of British acceptance of trans people, it's actually quite high. I think it's the majority actually accept, I think, at least self-ID. It's the other things like with sports and bathrooms, and it like fluctuates a bit. And if you look at the history of the UK and trans people, you might have seen these going viral on Twitter. There's certain like newspaper articles, even TV shows, like soap operas. We've had trans characters because back in the day, before it became like a moral panic, it was more accepted as just like maybe like a one-off in that community. Like we don't really care, and that's the British way. Most people don't care about other people's business, right? We're not like people who would really police everyone. I think it's very British to not get involved with stuff like, and I think with the trans stuff specifically, like you touched on a good point. Like, why not gay people? Why is it just trans people? Because the UK is a very secular country. If you start banging on about Christianity in politics, most people think you're a weirdo. Like I was raised Catholic and in a Catholic school, and that's like a religious minority in England specifically. And it's like, even if I came out and started saying shit, like people think I'm weird. But with trans people, I think it's just like I wouldn't say J.K. Rowling, because I think most people don't care about J.K. Rowling. And I know that seems like a bit of a shock because of Twitter. In this discussion, you don't hear much talk about J.K. Rowling. It's mainly like a Tory culture war. And just like the US, it's just stealing from the 1980s and 90s culture war about, gay rights and stuff. Bathrooms, children, changing rooms, trans people must just, be sexual predators, go through all of that, to go into someone's changing room to sexually assault. It just makes no sense. But I think what British people do love, just like Americans, is just fear-mongering about threats to children. So if you frame it in a way like, medical malpractice on children, because that's the recent thing in the UK about, puberty blockers and stuff, that's the recent law changes. I think that's where people just reactively go, oh, that's bad because I don't understand it. Because unlike America, there's not too many visible trans people in like mainstream culture in British society. And I actually spoke about this with a trans British YouTuber called Matriarchetype, because she also said, when I was growing up, I didn't even really know it was a thing, like being transgender, because we just had no people in the public eye. So I think for British people, even more than Americans, we just don't understand it. Not talking about myself, of course, but then when we have this moral panic, people just instinctively go to, oh, it must be a bad thing. So I think the perception of Turf Island in terms of all of us being rabidly hateful of trans people, I think that's a bit wrong. But I do think British people can be easily swayed on very specific issues. So puberty blockers and bathrooms or something like that. Because the sport thing, like, I don't even hear that come up here, because I guess we just don't prioritize high school sports as much. So you're not going to hear that in the conversation from Rishi Sunak. But it is pathetic, because him saying that, he doesn't even believe it when he says the Tories know what a woman is. It feels so like alien to the culture. It feels so American. And
can I ask about the conscription? Like, how was was that just like a last minute? Like, he doesn't care. He's fine with like firebombing his career, or because like that can't be popular in any way, shape, or form.
It's so desperate. You'll never find like a least nationalistic like group than English people. Like everyone, the only patriotism in this country is everyone agreeing it's shit. Like that's the only thing we'll all agree on and be proud of. Or like maybe like football potentially, but yeah, the conscription thing is a joke. Because on one hand, the army don't want a bunch of random British people signing up, because why would you want loads of people who really don't want to be in it be in your military? Like, we don't have that national service. If you're in the army, no one's thanking you. People probably call you like a cunt or something because you're an idiot for joining. Like, they're not going to be thanking you for your service in the UK. They'll probably harass you for being in it. So it was just like with the trans stuff, it's a desperate attempt, like last gasp, desperate attempt to be like, we're the party of patriotism and whatever bollocks, like with knowing what a woman is. And it's not serious as well. Like, I don't know if you've been following the Rwanda like deportation plan. It's the same thing. It was never going to happen. They were basically threatening all refugees who come in the UK. If you come here illegally, we're going to deport you to Rwanda. And they signed a big deal with the Rwandan government, like really corrupt government, which is in bed with the UK government. And there has never been a flight going to Rwanda because it's just a publicity stunt for the election. Same with national service, and it just causes a big debate. And it's just to appeal, like, who would that appeal to in America or Canada? Yeah, like baby boomers probably, who think the young people are so ungrateful and don't know what a real job is or real service is. So yeah, it's just because they know they're going to lose, as Mike said, they know they're going to lose. So I think it's just like damage limitation and maybe getting Tory heartlands to like shore up your seats and older white people maybe. But yeah, it's a joke. I couldn't imagine that ever being implemented, because I think like less than 1% of people eligible to be in national service would even sign up. It'd just be totally embarrassing. Like, we'd make the country look so stupid. So I can't see anyone ever implementing that again, because we don't have any love for the country. And why would you have love for a country that just fucks you over all the time? Like, again, that's what most British people agree on, especially my age. We just hate the government. So we're not going to go die in a foreign war for this government that, makes our lives worse, basically.
What's driving the unpopularity of the Tories? Like, why is it so clear that they're going to lose even before they announced, a lot of these unpopular things? Like, why do people hate them so much?
So it's crazy because obviously Boris Johnson got such a massive election victory. So you obviously have that element of they've been in power so long, and people just get sick sometimes of people in power. But I think it's like, when you're in power so long, you can't blame anyone else. Like, how can you say it's the Labour Party in the financial crash of 2008 for ruining the country when it's 2024? They do try that sometimes, though, but it just doesn't work. And also, by every metric, and people can really feel it in their life as well, everything's getting worse, like public services, grocery prices, which are traditionally quite cheap in the UK, and I think are still pretty cheap compared to somewhere like Canada. They've been going up, and I think rent is a big one. So especially like with the new electorate of like younger people, the rent, there's like literally like no rent control in this country. It's just insane how we're owned by landlords, and so many landlords are MPs. And also the Tories, remember, crashed the UK economy in 2022, nearly like erased nearly all the pension funds, like the public pension fund that everyone gets, because they were gambling it, like with these ultra libertarian economics. And that sent like the pound crashing. Because I remember I was in Vietnam, and how much your money suddenly was worth less in a country like that when it happened. So it's just like so many things together. And I think people just want change at the end of the day. And I think what people, don't get right of Brexit, a lot of people voted for Brexit because they wanted a change in their life. They just couldn't it's like with Donald Trump in 2016. They just couldn't pinpoint what was wrong. And when you're being told, oh, it's the EU, it's immigrants, it's a foreign dictatorship, people will be like, oh, I'll vote for Brexit and my life will get better. And then we have the Brexit election 2019. Boris Johnson says, elect me to finish the job. We elect him. And then still our lives getting worse and worse and worse. So all the Tory promises have basically been shown to be like bullshit while everything gets worse. And I think big ones that people really feel, NHS waiting times are just ridiculous. Like, people can't get ambulances anymore because there's just not enough stuff. And obviously, even as you get an aging population, that stuff becomes more important. So people are really feeling this right now. And, when you're desperate, you're just voting for a change. Do people know what Keir Starmer stands for? No. Would most people be able to name like 2 policies he has? Probably not. And that's what his game plan has been. Like Joe Biden, I'm just not them. It doesn't matter what I stand for. I'm just not them. So everyone's going to vote for them because they're just not the Tories. And that's the strategy. I don't know what you guys would think. Let me know. Do you think in 2020 that was the right strategy for Joe Biden to just be like, I am not Trump? but I won't promise anything big or any reform. I know it's obviously in hindsight you can see like
I don't think it was simply that. Like, I think that was obviously a key part of it, but I don't think that was the only part of it, right? Like, there was a lot of promises that he made that he didn't follow through, like student loan forgiveness, for example.
Yeah.
But like, there was a lot of day one things that he reversed just because they were put in through executive order, and so you can reverse them.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think that with Joe Biden, the biggest thing was COVID, because that was the thing that really impacted all of our lives in a very, very substantial way. So seeing the way that Trump botched it, I honestly think that that made the biggest difference. Although I don't know if this has ever been quantified, but I feel like if COVID never happened, Trump would have probably gotten, a second term, just because he wasn't necessarily offering any revolutionary policy. Sure, he was trying to code himself as a progressive, but then behind closed doors telling donors that nothing is going to fundamentally change. So I think that a lot of it was just, look, now is the time when you want a president who's just normal. And even if it's a milquetoast one, he can get us through COVID, at least competently. I think that's really what it was about. And there's really something to this thing that we see happening everywhere, right? Where we kind of oscillate back and forth between, center left and far right, the Tories, then Labor, Democrats, then Republicans. And I think this is just like everybody not really knowing how to react to the changing world and the death of capitalism. And so we're scrambling. And, what you said about people just voting for Brexit, so true, right? Like, we did the same thing here. Well, I didn't, but, Americans voted for Donald Trump because it's like, well, I know that the establishment isn't working for me, so I'm going to go with the anti-establishment candidate, even though, Donald Trump, he's a wealthy person. When he got in, did the bidding of the establishment. Not necessarily surprising, but people just don't know how to respond to it. And it's frustrating because the way that you defeat fascism is by having a leftist impose popular policies. I mean, the way that, basically we always kind of view it as like FDR saved capitalism from itself, but it's kind of true in a sense because, after, the Great Depression and, during World War II, he came through with a lot of policies and he was really popular. And I think that we're kind of just too corrupt. Like, Democrats are too far gone. They're too neoliberal to try that. Same with the Labor Party. And as a result, we're kind of just all losing our shit and go back and forth between two shitty parties. One thing that does stand out to me, though, just as an American, with regard to British politics, is I'm starting to notice, and maybe it's just because I'm paying a little bit more attention now because there's an election, I'm starting to notice more, I guess, like an Americanization of British politics in the sense that you get so much more loons now. Like Suella Braverman. I mean, she's kind of a Marjorie Taylor Greene type fascist in the UK. And I know she's no longer part of the, the Tories, but what is the general response to those kinds of like politicians in the UK? Because I just feel like I never would have expected that from the UK. And maybe it's because I have this stereotype of like, British people just being proper and respectful. And so to see somebody like Suella Braverman, even though she's not saying it like Marjorie Greene, but she's saying incredibly xenophobic and racist shit. I just feel like it's shocking to me. And I'm sure that there was always a demand for that in the UK, of course, because it's not like xenophobia is new. But what has the general consensus been, just like in your social circles and whatnot, to that kind of politics?
Yeah. So the social circles I can't really expand on because all my friends I've known since we were kids. So we all like Catholic, Irish or Polish or maybe some other like ethnic minority, and then you get raised and then you all just become atheists who are like leftists for some reason. I don't know why Catholic school does that. But in terms of just general society, I think the Americanization and the xenophobia, I actually don't think they go hand in hand. The Braverman one is interesting. So if people don't know, we had two South Asian Home Secretaries. The first one was called Priti Patel, and she was pretty extreme. And then Suella Braverman succeeded her and was way more extreme. And basically, they seem to get a pass for being super racist against like a racialized stereotype of a Muslim because they are, in fact, like ethnic minorities as well. So some of the stuff they've said, if a white politician said it, they would be called racist, right? But for some reason, the Tories love to do this. We have a gay MP saying this. We have a trans MP saying this. We have ethnic minorities saying stuff bad about other minorities. You can't call them racist because they are minorities. So that's the weird thing they're doing, which I don't think is very American, because you do get that in America, but it doesn't feel authentic when someone like, who was that football player who ran for Senate?
Herschel
Walker.
Herschel Walker, yeah. Or even like Caitlyn Jenner.
Insurrections about the people.
Yeah, and it's just like in the UK, there is actually quite a lot of support in various ethnic communities for like the Tory government, and that's why you see a very diverse like front bench, and they'll throw it in the Labour's face because it's mainly white on the Labour side. They're like, look at us, the most diverse cabinet in Britain, run by an Indian guy. Like we're so progressive and so British. Like, you know, British.
So identity politics.
It literally is weaponization. That's why I made a video about woke fascism recently, in terms of like the weaponization of identity politics to do fascism is like a thing that is very British as well. And it's just like the Americanization, I think, is more for like the trans rights stuff. Because like you're saying, xenophobia, racism, that's as British as like, you know, the establishment of the country have always been a bunch of racists. So like it's hard, but I get what you're saying. I think the insanity of British politics has gotten worse, and I think that's a knock-on effect from Donald Trump. And obviously Nigel Farage said he wasn't going to run so he could go campaign for Trump, and now he is running. So you have that link there, and I predict he's actually going to be the next prime minister after Keith gets in, because I think he'll actually run for the leadership of the Tory party.
That's horrifying.
I think he will be, if reform don't keep surging, I think he will one day be the Tory leader. And I think that's the Americanization in terms of like the real blatant nationalism, which usually is, you know, something you associate more with American politics. I think that nationalism is something that I would say is an offshoot from America, because Britain is not a patriotic country traditionally, but you do now have these parties, and even the Labour Party, when Keith makes a speech, he has like 4 Union Jacks behind him. And I'm just like, because you think everyone is a fucking idiot in this country, that they only vote based on how many flags they see. Because that's the one thing, the Labour Party, they also really look down on working class people now. So they think, oh, I'm just going to throw a flag up there and you'll vote for me because I'm a patriot. But that's the way it's going. And that's the sad thing about UK politics, is the Overton window has definitely shifted, where you can understand it now more in an American way, which I would never say before. You could never say the Tories and the Labour Party in the past were like Republicans and Democrats, where now I could say you could easily make that comparison, because that essentially is what they are. Maybe not as far right, of course, but you're basically working with the same framework there. And like you were saying about the death of capitalism, Mike, I feel that really hard. It's like 2 parties playing ping pong while the world just like burns around them. And like, because that's the thing you can't ignore, isn't it? It's climate change. Like, it's all well and good just playing this game of politics, but when you have this like existential threat to humanity in the background, you can't just keep electing centrists and then far right people, because they're not going to do anything. And that's why, you know, I am, you know, hearing that stuff about Trump with the oil barons. I'm like, for fuck's sake, like, we're just so screwed, aren't we? Like, it is really depressing being a leftist. So if you don't pay attention to politics and you're somehow watching this stream, maybe this should be your last exposure.
Man, do you remember? So I think that we first talked in 2019, and it was after Labor had lost. And I was gutted, because before that, I was like, oh my God, we are possibly going to live in a world where Jeremy Corbyn is the prime minister and Bernie Sanders is the president. And that was like the first wake-up call, the first red flag. And now look at us 4 years later, where it's like, we're all gonna fucking die. We're doomed.
I know, and it's so like, Bernie's been disappointing because, in my opinion, he's been a bit of a pushover, especially with his last presidential run. But I think even like you were saying, you watched my video about why Bernie Sanders is like still a Zionist and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think like a lot of older politicians are very traditional. Like, he does see Trump as like this existential threat, and he will do anything to stop that if that means supporting Joe Biden. And I think it's like an old school mentality. But yeah, like you're saying, it's depressing, because when Bernie lost in 2016, you felt like there was still some hope. But then when he conceded in 2020, I'm like who else is there? And with Corbyn, it's like what they've done as well. They've purged all the leftists from the Labour Party. I don't know if you've seen in this recently on Twitter. They've literally been kicking people out for like alleged anti-Semitism again. I can't even believe this is still working, by the way. Like, they're still calling people anti-Semites for criticizing Israel and kicking them out of the party, including like obviously a lot of anti-Zionist Jews as well, while allowing Tory MPs to switch to the Labour Party. So we live in a world now where there are multiple Tory MPs who've switched affiliation. So they're now sitting Labour MPs in Parliament, and they've kicked Jeremy Corbyn out of the party, and he can't run as a Labour MP. So these far-right Tories are now sitting as Labour MPs. Corbyn can't run as one. And that's like the state of UK politics right now. And I'm gaslit into thinking that Jeremy Corbyn is the racist one, not the racist Tories who switch parties suddenly because they jump ship knowing what's happening. So that's, yeah, like you're saying, yeah,
Like, didn't Boris Johnson write a book where he like spreads an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory in that book about how Jewish people control the media, and that just like he got a pass? No one talked about that. Like half the people I talk to don't even know that. And like, meanwhile, Jeremy Corbyn is a rabid anti-Semite. And I was, but the other guy's doing the thing, the racism.
Well, that's the thing with Canada, England, and America. It's like everyone who actually is an anti-Semite is actually not one because they support Israel. So we're talking about Suella Braverman. She's been banging on about cultural Marxism for years. And because we're so like illiterate in terms of like fascism in the UK, it's like we don't even realize she's literally just saying loads of anti-Semitic shit. And like you're saying, Boris Johnson wrote that book. No one has ever brought that up because he supports Israel. So they don't give a shit. Jeremy Corbyn says Jeremy Corbyn is pretty mild-mannered with his support of Palestine in terms of like the stuff you would hear from the five of us here about what we'd say. And he still gets called people act like he's Hitler. Like, it is actually insane. And it's insane how that really works as well, because the UK traditionally, I know we've been like one of the biggest supporters of Israel, but people don't give a shit about Israel. It's not like the US where like Christians are insane about it. And like, obviously, because, you know, the US has a massive Jewish population as well. You have that like support there already. And then you have more like Democrats supporting it. The UK doesn't give a shit about it. So it's so insane that this has worked so well in purging like all left-wing politicians by just calling them an anti-Semite just because they might have some mild criticism of Netanyahu. They actually Keith made a Labour MP apologise just before the genocide started because she called Netanyahu a fascist. She had to stand up in Parliament and say sorry because they said it was anti-Semitic.
I cannot apologise for that. I'd be like, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah, I guess my career's over in
I'm
politics.
not apologizing.
Yeah. And she was, of course, she was a socialist, and that's why they essentially like they get off on humiliating socialists. But they're really like fucking. I'm a bit annoyed now looking back. I wish the socialists purged all the Blairites because they got called Stalinist anyway. So just do it. But we're too nice, aren't we? Like all of us, we feel too bad. I don't want to ruin someone's career. I don't want to ruin someone's like family life or some shit.
We also I think we have more hope in people. Like we hope people can learn and be better. And no, they're just pieces of shit. And we should realize that a lot sooner.
And that's something, Mike, you're talking about like radicalizing. If you would say to me like in 2016 or 17, oh, like purge all the non-socialist members of the Labour Party, I'd be like, no, you can't do that. But then now it's like, yeah, I would definitely do that. Like if that ever happened again, I'd get rid of all of them. Like for no reason. I wouldn't even have to charge them with something fake like they're anti-Semites. I'd be like, because you're terrible people, we're just changing the party now. But that's why the one thing I will say, the hopeful situation, like South America is really interesting to me. And I get happy because like at least the left have some success there. Where now in like, I guess it's
Mexico too.
Mexico.
That was a big
recently Mexico. But it's just everywhere like on the Atlantic. Like near the Atlantic. So we have Ireland on the Atlantic, which is fucked, and then England nearby, and then you guys in Canada and America. And it's like it's just something about that ocean. I don't know, just makes us all like terrible at politics or something. But it's also we just all share the same, like we're all from the same place basically. Like we're all Irish, English, and like we're German as well in England. So it's like just something about that. I don't want to be like into eugenics, but there's something that makes us shitty at politics.
I don't want to be into eugenics.
There's something in Northern European DNA that makes us love fascism or something.
We gotta do some leftist phrenology on what's making us fucking insane.
He's joking, everyone. These are jokes for the inevitable clips.
Yeah, I'm joking for everyone apart from Germans, but I'll mess him.
Well, we do have our second guest here.
We got two guests this week. What the hell? Craziness.
We go from having 0 guests sometimes, then we have 2.
And Rebecca's joining us too. It's going to be a full house.
This is more important than British politics for sure. I'm really interested in this one.
Yeah, let's bring them in. Hey.
What's up? How's it going? I apologize for the tardiness. I was just coming back from the gym and I had just had to shower, so I was
no, it's no biggie.
Good for you.
No worries.
Yeah, you can come and go whenever you please here.
Yeah.
I fell off a little while ago, but now I'm like now I'm getting back onto the grind again. So
it's that time of year.
No, I fell off because of like personal reasons, and now I'm like I gotta get back on the grind. I gotta, get swole again. So
hell yeah. Well, tell us who you are and what you do.
And plug your socials too.
Yeah, plug everything.
So for those of you who don't know, my name is ArunAnnow. I'm basically the Indian Hasanabi. That's what everyone knows me as. And the reason is I cover South Asian politics, I cover Indian politics, Pakistani politics, Sri Lankan politics, Bangladeshi politics. I cover politics from basically the subcontinent. Yeah, and I guess I have I do politics. I cover that sort of region in a similarly irreverent manner to the way Hassan covers it, because our politics are quite ridiculous. Indian politics are quite ridiculous, and it's bloody insane.
I'd say he's the Turkish you know, more than you.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
that's
yeah.
also me. And we also say Hassan is Turkish Arun. So
there you go. Yeah, we were talking about the British elections with Kavernacle, and I know that there is a major election happening right now in India, and there's a lot going on. It's done, and apparently we'll get the results relatively soon, right? But Modi's expected to win.
It's already done. Like, so basically so India, just like the UK, runs on a parliamentary system, and the idea is that so the seats have already basically been counted. It's already over. That's so the results, and we can get into it in a second, but are that Modi lost his majority. So the BJP outright lost their majority, which means there's a bit of sort of tension within the NDA, which is their sort of coalition, the BJP-led coalition. So there's a lot of questions and doubts as to what the other major parties in that coalition are demanding from the BJP. A lot of the demands, I'm just going to be honest, are absolutely ridiculous. It's just them trying to. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Yep,
of course.
Okay, yeah, it's them trying to
encourage it.
It's basically those parties trying to, whip their dick on the table. That's basically it.
Yeah.
So the demands that they're making are, they're quite ridiculous, and there's a lot of there's this. I guess you can sort of. We'll get into it in a second, but like most of the things that I've heard from the grapevines right now are like, this coalition is not going to last. BJP's coalition isn't going to last that long.
So that'll trigger a new election, similar to like other parliamentary systems.
So what I think might happen is they might end up switching to the India coalition if the other guys don't get their way. Because there's a lot of the India coalition is the opposition coalition. It used to be called the UPA, United Progressive Alliance, and in a stroke of what I would consider to be marketing genius, they actually called the alliance India, because it's a great. I mean, I watched John Oliver's segment.
That was awesome. It's in the name.
I was tearing my hair out half the time. Half the time, John Oliver got a lot of it right. I'll give him credit for that. But a lot of the stuff where it was like, oh, Modi's gonna win, or like, Rahul Gandhi has the main opposition, or I guess the figurehead of the opposition he has no chance. When he was saying that stuff, I was just like, oh God, not again, not this again. Because the coverage of it all from, I guess, Al Jazeera, even Al Jazeera was glazing up Modi the entire time. They basically treated Modi's victory as like guaranteed, and I was like, you guys do not know what the hell you're talking about. So I was tearing my hair out the entire election when I was watching like the audience is like, my audience knows that I was like losing my mind every single time I watched like BBC. But there's a lot we can get into. If you have any more questions, go ahead and ask. If you want to know more about me, if you want to learn more about India, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll bring in Rebecca here. Rebecca just joined. Hey, Rebecca, how's it going?
Hi, guys. It's going good.
Hey, hope you're doing well.
Thank you. Hope you guys are doing well. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you, Rebecca.
Yeah, nice to meet you. It's weird. I was saying to the others, it's weird just like talking to you guys for the first time when I just listen to this all the time.
Oh, really?
It's just strange. It's like I know you all so well, even though it's first meeting.
It's parasocial. We're awful.
We're all in parasocial relationships with each other. Yeah. So Aaron, can you kind of explain?
Oh, it's Arun.
Arun, sorry. Can you explain just to American and Canadian audiences, like Modi, if you watch, your introduction into Indian politics, if you watch like John Oliver, Modi is a very Trumpian figure. Can you give us a little bit of a primer on Modi and the general
And I have a follow up to that because in the interest of I'm often calling Modi a fascist.
Yeah.
Do you also think as someone who's obviously striving towards Hindu nationalism and the ethnic cleansing of Muslims in the country and stuff like that, is he if he could possibly be ousted, would he do something else to try and retain power if he can't do it through diplomatic negotiations in Parliament?
So I'll take Mike's question first. So first off, Mike's question is, if I remember correctly, so basically who Modi is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Modi is, I wouldn't necessarily call him a Trump-like figure. I feel like, in a sense, Trump is a lot more flamboyant in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So this dude is, I guess, I don't like comparing. I don't like that comparison for some reason, but it just feels like it feels like a weird comparison to make because there are figures in India that you could more easily compare to Trump. And also like Indian politics is just like in general like a lot more. In American politics, there's a sort of respectability politics that's played. There's like a threshold where like American politics won't ever go under. Like you can't just you have to maintain some sort of like air of respectability, but in India that doesn't exist, or it exists in its most minimal form. So in a sense, like you'll have politicians, people in government going on stage giving speeches and just cursing out other politicians just straight up, like no one cares. Like I was just watching a guy from my home state of Tamil Nadu. And he was just cursing, left and right. He's like, fuck you. This dude's a motherfucker. Modi's his dad. I fucked his mom. All of it, right? Like, and this dude's a guy in government, by the way. He's like a minister. So he doesn't get, like, we have speeches like this all the time. It's very, like, it's a totally different vibe in India, right? But Modi, before he was prime minister of India, he actually was the chief minister. So, the chief minister position in India is basically the state level prime minister. So similar to how I guess in America we also have governors in India, but in India, the chief minister is the one that's elected, whereas governors are appointed basically by the central government. Basically, the idea is so Modi is he's a lot more. So in 2002, he was actually chief minister, and there were actually huge anti-Muslim riots in Gujarat, his home state. Roughly 2,000 people died, right? So I would say that Modi, I guess, is a far more dangerous figure than Trump is, in a sense. He's a significantly more ideologically minded fascist.
The US as well.
What?
He was banned from coming from the US, I think.
The State Department actually, the US banned him because of the pogroms in Gujarat in 2002. They were forced to unban him immediately once he became prime minister. So once he became prime minister, they were forced
to
not
do commerce with India, right?
Huh?
I was like, they can't not do commerce with India. They're not just going to be able to.
They can't. That. That's
This is just a non-starter.
So Modi is, in a sense, yes, he is he's effectively a Nazi. You can basically say. So in order to understand what all of this is, the Bharatiya Janata Party is just one wing of this overall organization called the Sangh Parivar, and the Sangh Parivar is basically a far right, far right is not doing it. They're basically an organization, the largest of which is the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, the RSS. And the RSS, one, they are ideologically directly inspired by the Nazis, by the SS, right? By the Nazis. And they take a lot of their uniforms and a lot of their organizational tactics from Mussolini's Italian fascists, right? So you can kind of think of the RSS as like the latest version of like those classical fascists in that sense. So the RSS has been around for quite a while, and the RSS, one of its members back in like the early 1900s was a guy called Nathuram Godse, and Nathuram Godse was the guy that assassinated Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, right? And that's So that should give you an idea, because Gandhi wasn't like anti-Muslim enough, right? So that should give you and BJP is basically considered the, I guess, the political party, the electoral wing of the RSS. So RSS will make these, I guess, 50-year machinations, and then the BJP is basically their people that are supposed to be in power, right? They're the ones that are supposed to be the electoral wing of the Sangh Parivar and the RSS. And there are multiple different organizations within the RSS. If you want to, in the Sangh Parivar, if you want to learn more about Hindutva in general, my friend Rohan Davis on YouTube, he actually made a really good video on Hindutva, on Hindu nationalism. Highly recommend it. It's like a great explanation, because he's from Kerala. He's from the state that like borders my home state. And so he gets it. He understands exactly what's going on, and he's able to basically explain to a Western audience as to like what's going on. As to Lance's question, do you think Modi will pull a January 6th? He's already tried. I mean, he's already been trying to rig the polls, so I wouldn't put it past the BJP. And the BJP is not known for, I guess, being nice in a sense. They do. The BJP does incite a lot of riots, and their sister organizations like the ABVP, the Bajrang Dal, and all of these like far right Hindu nationalist organizations, they do incite like anti-Muslim, often anti-Sikh riots as well, because they're also, a long time ago during the 80s, there was a movement for a separate state called Khalistan. So they'll a lot of whom actually a lot of people moved to Canada from India because of
into British Columbia.
British Columbia. I know, I know a bunch of people in British Columbia that are Punjabis. I mean, but it's more than that though. Like, it's not just that they're anti-Muslim, and it's not just they're anti-Sikh and they're anti-Christian, right? Christians are also persecuted in India, and the RSS's next project right now is to persecute Christians, especially in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Their overall thing is they want to reinforce caste in India. So they want to reinforce Brahminical rule in India. They want to reinforce a system where the Brahmins ultimately have, the Brahmins are the priest class, the various different castes like Ayir, Iyengar, Nambudiris, like all those different Brahmin castes, right? They're the ones that ultimately hold the political power in India. They want to institute a much more rigid system of that, where, for example, especially the Brahmins within the RSS and all these organizations, they want to get rid of affirmative action for the most oppressed caste in India, which is called reservation. So the BJP, I guess, what do you call it? The BJP, what do you call this? The hole, the rabbit hole, that goes even further than you think it does. It goes significantly further. There's every form of bigotry you can think of, whether it be on the basis of language, because they're also, another project of the RSS and BJP is this thing called Hindi imposition, which is the enforcement of one particular language upon the rest of India. So India has hundreds of languages spoken in its borders, right? And it has, there's a part of the Constitution called the 8th Schedule, which basically lists like 22, 23 languages as having some sort of national status. And the official languages of India are Hindi and English. They want to make it so that Hindi is the only official language. And some even within the BJP and the RSS would much rather have Sanskrit be the official language, and Sanskrit itself is a Brahminical language, right? It is the language of the Brahmins. So they ultimately want to enforce not just a religious system, but they also think that minorities within India are different races, and it's actually kind of a race science thing that's going on here as well. But I've said a lot. It's a lot to take in, but if you have any more questions, just hit me up.
Arun, I'm curious about. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, David.
I just have one. Is there anything to be hopeful about? Like,
well, the fact that he didn't win a majority, that's huge.
So fucking
Like,
depressing.
BJP. Okay, I'll say this: the BJP they just took an L, so they just took a massive L.
That's good.
But a lot of the problems that I'm saying are not going to be fixed by, like, caste is not a thing that's going to be fixed. Like, they technically made untouchability illegal like several decades ago, right? When India was made independent, and untouchability is like it's like what defines caste in a sense, right? It's basically there's certain people, like the way untouchability works and what like Dalit people are is that they're specifically defined as untouchable in, you know, according to the Brahminical, I guess, religious system, right? And there's also a connection between the Brahmins and the British as well, which leads into the whole concept of Aryanism, which I don't want to get into yet. But basically, the idea is the idea of untouchability is that there are certain people who are considered ritually impure or racially impure in a sense, and so they're not allowed to enter in they're not allowed to enter temples, they're not allowed to enter certain establishments. They have to stay in Kerala, especially for a long time. There's a concept called unapproachability, meaning people, like if you're born into a particular caste, you had to be, you know, at least several hundred meters away from the upper caste.
Wow.
And there's a extreme in which there's something even called unseeability, which is the idea that you cannot, if you come from this particular caste, like that is considered unseeable, you are not allowed to enter out in the day. You must enter out only at night.
What?
So that's another thing that's a part of the caste system, right? So so those levels of extremes we don't see anymore, like unseeability to the same degree. We don't see that anymore, but untouchability is still a problem throughout India. So there are certain groups of people that are, you know, we call Dalits now, right? They used to be called the Untouchables, but Untouchables is no longer a good name is no longer an appropriate name. They're called Dalits because according to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Baba Saheb, Jai Bhim, Dalit is a term meaning broken. Basically, they were broken by the system. They were made to be in that position by by caste, basically, by the concept of caste. So where does all this tie back into Hindu nationalism, right? So right now, the very concept of Hindu unity, because the thing you have to understand about India is that there is no ethnic majority in India. There's no ethnic group in India that can claim a majority. So if you go to Sri Lanka, for example, just across the border, it's obvious that the Sinhalese there are the majority, right? If you go to Russia, for example, ethnic Russians are the majority there, obviously, right? But in India, there's no such concept, right? There is no absolute ethnic majority. There's no linguistic majority, right? There is no such thing, right? Hindi, which is considered the linguistic majority, is only natively spoken by about 20 to 40% of the population. So there is no majority in India. So part of the Hindu nationalist project is to artificially create a majority called Hindus, right? And this actually dates back to the British colonial times. But the idea is that they want to create this sort of artificial unified Hindu bloc against whom they deem outsiders or racially impure in a sense, which are Muslims and Christians. And they also, a lot of the early bigotry against Muslims in India actually very much echoes anti-Semitism. So it's basically not the sort of Jewish cabal kind of conspiracy theory, although that the Jewish cabal, except for Muslims, does exist. That conspiracy theory exists in Sri Lanka. So just next door, that's a whole another can of worms I don't want to open. But the original bigotry against Muslims was that they're only loyal to their own people. They can never be loyal to the sons of the soil, that sort of thing. So some of the earliest forms of like anti-Muslim bigotry in India actually echoes anti-Semitism. And obviously, no surprise, much of the early RSS guys were pro-Hitler. They loved Hitler. They were around for Hitler and they loved Hitler. Right? So again, a lot of info to take in, but hopefully you're able to take something away from that.
Yeah,
well, I just want to say, without changing topic, happy, Antifa won on D-Day, everybody. Antifa, Team Antifa. Antifa did it.
Right.
I just got
Arun,
a question because we're talking about like anti-Semitism and like obviously with Modi. If you could elaborate on this maybe. So obviously, what I find interesting about India is like with Israel, the person who assassinated someone like Gandhi, or I think it's who's the guy in the 1990s in Israel who did the peace deal and got assassinated.
Oh, I know who
Forgot-
you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. I don't remember
afterwards.
though. I don't remember. his name.
I was going to say Begin, but Begin's the terrorist guy. It's the other one.
I can't remember.
But anyway, so there's
No,
right.
it's Yitzhak Rabin.
Yeah, Rabin. So he was assassinated by someone who's basically egged on by Netanyahu, and then Netanyahu's now the prime minister. And like you were saying with the RSS and the BJP, the RSS killed Gandhi because he was on that hunger strike to like give aid to Pakistan or something like that. And in terms of the trajectory, it's quite similar in terms of now that's the ruling ideology. But in terms of the actual, when you were saying about the project, it was reminding me a lot of Israel. And I know India has now. You can elaborate on this, but like it seems it's gone from in the past being more pro-Palestinian to now majority pro-Israel. Is that just a result of Modi's like rhetoric around like creating this basically like ethno-state in India, and now their support for Israel more broadly, or is that to do more of like Kashmir and stuff, like claims to that, like, or is it like a mixture of all of it?
So I think we have to separate the official stance of India versus what you're seeing online.
Yeah.
So the official stance of India with regards to Palestine has not changed since 1947, since they got independence. Their official, not 1940, their stance has not changed, and that is the recognition of a state of Palestine, two-state solution, pre-1967 borders. India's official position on Palestine is significantly better than the West position by far.
Yeah.
And that is a vestige of the fact that they were colonial, they're a post-colonial state. So they were dealing directly with the British, and on top of that, they got independence from the British. They fought a revolution against the British, and then immediately after that, what happened was they were one of the big leaders of the non-aligned movement. So they were considered sort of like, especially within the region of South Asia, India was kind of a beacon they were kind of like the leader in the non-aligned movement in a sense.
Yeah.
They were the country that was, you could kind of say, is a post-colonial state, and they were basically they were leading the way in like anti-colonialism in a sense. They were viewed as that way for quite a while. The hatred that you're seeing for Palestinians coming from Hindu nationalists, that just comes straight down to Islamophobia.
Yeah.
There's nothing more to it, honestly. I don't think there's much more to it. They'll also say like, Israel, Israel helped India with, Kashmir against Pakistan. That's another reason that they'll throw in. But if you actually look at like most of what they're up to, it's just mostly hatred for Muslims. That's about it.
Okay.
That's literally it. It's not much deeper than that. And I wanted to say one thing because it's very easy for people to just look at that. Like a lot of people are seeing what Indians like, what we call Sanghis, RSS supporters, and like far right Hindu nationalists in India say about Palestinians. But you got to remember, they've been saying this shit about. They've been saying that shit about minorities in their own country for like decades. The only reason you're seeing about it now is that they're talking about something that you know about, right?
Yeah.
So like I'll give you a great example. They've been dropping slurs. They continue to drop slurs left and right on Twitter, but you just don't know about it. They're dropping caste slurs left and right.
Mm.
I get called that stuff all the time for sticking up for. I don't come from a marginalized caste or oppressed caste at all. But like even when I support and I stand up for and I speak out against caste and I advocate for the annihilation of caste and whatnot, I get hit with those slurs. So they drop those slurs left and right. I've been called the N-word online as well, because so there's also a weird dynamic in that there's also a tension between North and South India. It's a sublimated tension, in that And Indians in the audience will, like, I guarantee you, like, Indians will be like, oh, this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. This guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Oh, he's an NRI, he's an American. Like, I trust, spare me. I've lightly pushed back on North Indian racism towards South Indians, and I've been literally, someone hit me with a racist Pokemon meme with the N-word. Please spare me. But they've also, so there's a lot of anti-blackness as well in India, and it also leads back to partially caste, because the most marginalized caste, again, caste is sort of a race-like system. It's kind of like the American race system in that there's a permanence to it. You are born into a particular, a lot of people read caste as like it's a class system. And even though it ultimately did come from a caste system, which is why you can't tell what caste someone is from just by looking at them, it's permanent, like race. You cannot ever change your caste. You were born into a particular caste and you're stuck that way for life. You're done. Like, once you're born into a marginalized caste, you have to deal with the possibility of being, there's horrible stories I can bring up left and right, but yeah, you have to deal with this sort of thing around your neck the entire time of like, oh, am I going to live tomorrow? Like, what's going on?
Dang.
Right? Yeah. So going back to that point, they've been like the Sangis that you're seeing right now, they're talking massive shit about Palestine. They've been doing this to their own, like, minorities, like to the own marginalized people of India for a long time. It's only now picking up. Only people are only realizing it now because they're talking about, like, Palestine, which is a hot button issue. That's about it.
I'm curious about Hindu nationalism and how prominent it's always been, and whether or not, Modi popularized it. Maybe it was always lingering and he made it popular. And I'm curious, like, with this phenomenon with BJP and Modi, is this surge? And I know that racism has always been a problem and whatnot, but, like, is part of it a cult of personality with Modi, or did he really just activate this Hindu nationalism that was already there? Like, can you talk a little bit about that, if that makes sense?
So, Hindu nationalism in India kind of grew, especially under the Manmohan Singh administration, exponentially due to the neoliberal economic reforms and austerity measures that Manmohan Singh instituted. Manmohan Singh was, even though he came from the Congress, he was basically part of the Congress party. He was the guy that basically accelerated the neoliberalism of his predecessor, such as Vajpayee and whatnot. So he was really the guy that also accelerated neoliberalism, especially since the 90s. Hindu nationalism has always been it's always existed for about 100 years, at least 100 years or so. It's been around for a very long time. It's nothing new. It was actually, the RSS was actually banned at some point under under Patel, basically. Vallabhbhai Patel, he banned RSS at some point. I think in some sense, Hindu nationalism's popularity is a bit overestimated, especially with this election. I think everyone was expecting that once the BJP built the Rama temple on the remains of the Babri Masjid, on the Babri Mosque, the Babur Mosque, they assumed that BJP would win with a landslide. In fact, the BJP themselves were going around saying, "Oh, we're going to win, 400 seats, 400 seats, 400 seats." There are 543 seats in Parliament, basically. So they were going around saying, like, I think Lok Sabha specifically, but they're like, they were running around saying, "Oh, we're going to win 400 seats. We're going to win 400 seats. We're going to win 400 seats." Like, it's an obscene majority, right? But it didn't happen. And why was that? If you look at what happened in especially the largest state, Uttar Pradesh is a population of about 200 million people. 75%, like 3/4 of the population of the US. That's just one state in India, right? What happened in Western UP was actually the caste tensions between the Rajputs and the BJP overrode the Hindu nationalist, narrative, right? Which is their material conditions, which they wanted more representation, meaning they wanted more, administrative positions in the BJP administration in Uttar Pradesh, as well as overall. They wanted, and BJP was snubbing them for another caste called Jats, right? So that's one reason why. Another reason is that especially the rural people of India, they realize, they're dealing with rising inflation, right? They're struggling to put food on the table. So they're like, listen, you guys built the temple on top of the mosque, but what does that do for me? You didn't put food on the table. What the hell? So they're also dealing with rising inflation. There's a huge jobs crisis in India. No one's able to get a job, especially youth. The Indian youth are having a huge unemployment crisis. So those sort of like people kind of realize like, oh shit, these guys are screwing us over. Wealth inequality in India is as high, if not higher now than it was when the British ruled India. That's how bad wealth inequality is. Like 80% of India's wealth is run by a handful of corporations, Adani and Ambani, right? So the economic situation of India has spiraled just down, continued to spiral downward, and people realize that. So I think in a sense, the Hindu nationalism isn't as popular as people think it is, and I think people are. There's this statistic that people love to pull out with regards to Modi, which is like, oh, Modi's like 71% popular, and I question the methodology of that a little bit, because India is an obscenely diverse country, and saying it's diverse is not a good way of putting it. It's a patchwork post-colonial state. There's no shot Modi is popular among 71% of the population. If it is, you are basically asking 1 billion people their opinion on Modi. Like the home state that I come from, the state that I come from despises Modi on the whole. We all hate him. The state next door hates him. The state to the northwest, Karnataka, just kicked the BJP out in their own state elections, right? So they're not all like, it's not like, I think Hindu nationalism is quite a bit. I think a lot of people overestimate the popularity of Hindu nationalism in the West, but it is still a problem, right? It's not but I would still say, yes, it's still a huge problem in India. It is a massive problem. But I think like people whip out that 71% statistic and are like, well, I guess like Modi's super popular. And it's like, that's not really true. You're not understanding the ground level situation. But yeah. What was the other question you had, Mike?
No, I was wondering about like whether or not there was this sort of cult of personality around Modi.
Yeah,
and I guess I asked that because as an American, I'm not sure what's happening, and I hear the 70% approval statistic myself, and I think, well, there's got to be like, the best comparison for me, which is a bad comparison, as you said, is Trump. Where there's this like, it's not really driven by policy or ideology; it's just the guy. And I'm curious how much that's the case.
Did you watch
I would actually
did you watch that John Oliver special, Mike? I'm just curious because like they showed some.
I did watch it.
Those video clips they showed, it kind of seemed the opposite of Trump, where like Trump's like, there's a camera, I'm going to say the worst shit you've ever heard in your life. And then with Modi, it was like, these are the softballiest of softball setup interviews like I've ever seen. But I don't know if that speaks to
how do you eat a mango? Like it's
just I know.
So I can speak to both of those things. So the first thing is like so what Lance just alluded to is why I don't like the comparison between Modi and Trump, because Modi, for the longest time, especially when he was in power, he actually wasn't the guy that said the most insane shit. He did say insane shit, and he's an awful dude, right? Just to be clear. But there are people within his party that are far worse than he is, right? A great example is the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, who openly said, if they take one of our Hindu girls, they meaning Muslims, if they take one of our Hindu girls, we'll take 100 of Muslim girls, right? And another thing that that guy said is he basically chanted at a rally, and he basically said, if they even touch one of our Hindus, if they even kill one of our Hindus, there will be 100 Muslims that we. And then he told the crowd to say kill, basically. So even worse. But the irony of that is Yogi's not a lot of people dislike Yogi a lot more than they like Modi, because Modi actually has cultivated this Vishwaguru image of being very charismatic. He's a world statesman. So that is where the similarity with Trump actually does ring really well. It works really well. And it's similar to how you have some hogs in the United States that say like, oh, I want Trump to marry me, or I want to have sex with Trump, or some shit like that. Right? They're like, oh, Trump is so hot or whatever.
Well, it's got unvaccinated sperm, right?
Yeah, it's the
actually, no, it would be vaccinated. He doesn't have pure sperm. Sorry, I withdraw that comment.
Yeah, I saw like you see the same shit for Modi. Yes, there is a huge cult of personality for Modi. Like Modi's this wise, like wonderful dude. There's a guy. There's a woman online. I don't know. I don't remember if it's real, but like I wouldn't be surprised if it was real. Basically, she was advocating for Modi to impregnate a bunch of like donate semen to like Indian women to impregnate Indian women,
as you do,
shit, so that the superior sperm, so that his superior sperm can like
the master sperm,
we can make super babies.
The Uber sperm.
It was and there's another dude that was basically saying like Modi is like the perfect boyfriend or something. Like you do see a cult of personality. Absolutely, you do. There is no question about it.
That's interesting.
I gotta say that's like really funny to me because like, listen, like Trump is obviously a horrible person, but like, I get it. He's a character. He's a character. He's got a whole aura about him. Modi just looks like a guy. Like he's just a guy. Like,
Modi. I mean, the thing with Modi is he speaks in Hindi most of the time, so that's why like you probably don't like. There are memes of him saying like, I mean, I do impressions of him from time to time where he was in Punjab and he was saying like everything's fine or whatever, and like that was turned into a meme. Yeah, so like Modi does have like he's not the most crazy person in the party. There's far worse people in India than Modi. I will say that. Significantly worse people than Modi. But Modi is in a weird sense in the position that he is because he is able to basically cultivate, because he originally also won the support of like the finance bros and like the upper classes of India, like not caste, but like, well, both caste and class, upper caste and upper class people of India that were just, they were more he originally won as like a pro business candidate, which we all know what that means, right? So you know, tax cuts for the rich and whatnot, right? So he won on that. Like he also he originally won the support of like the, you know, dumb finance bros and shit. I know a bunch of finance bros that voted for him originally because they're like, oh, he's a good business guy or whatever. So yeah.
That works everywhere. Why?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I mean, sounds familiar.
I will say this. The one thing I guess that does set India apart from the United States is the news. The news, I will say this: the politicians and the news in America is significantly more boring compared to India. That's just a fact. I'm sorry to say this. Like, they're one of the most famous clips that I talk about or that I show people. I showed Hassan this the other day or a couple days ago. There's a guy from this outfit called the Karni Sena, and it's a bit complicated to explain what Karni Sena is, but they're basically like a caste outfit, which is like they're a group dedicated to the, you know, advocating the supremacy of one particular caste. In this case, it was the Rajputs, right, in Rajasthan. And they were interviewed by this Hindi news channel, and one of them brought a sword, and he was just chilling with he brought a sword onto set, and he just whipped out the sword. He was just holding it on set. If you want, I can send you the video.
Well, I was like, yeah, we can watch it on stream.
I would actually love to see that.
Okay,
yeah,
I mean, it sounds like you guys got your own Proud Boys. Honestly, that's what it's right.
I got you on. Where do you want me to send it?
You can just put it in the private chat, probably.
Yeah, put it in the StreamYard private chat.
Oh, let me get. Yeah, Karni Sena. Yeah, this is just an example of how crazy like news can get. Where is it? Karni Sena sword. Yeah, here you go.
You said American news is more boring than the news there.
Yeah, it is. That's an absolute fact. Like, I'm sorry to say this.
Don't be sorry. I mean,
That's saying something. Though.
I mean,
I
personally,
look at
I want boring news. Please don't give me entertaining news.
Okay, that's the clip. So if you this is one of my favorite clips to show everyone. It's fantastic. For the record, I do not speak Hindi because I'm from the state of Tamil Nadu. So like we have like known to like resist the imposition of Hindi. So most of us in Tamil Nadu do not actually speak Hindi whatsoever. So we don't understand anything. I mean, we can kind of make out what's going on here. Yeah. So yeah. Just play that.
इतिहास के पन्नों में दर्ज है इतिहास के पन्नों में दर्ज है रानियों के साथ
मैं
He unsheets it. Nice.
In the newsroom?
Yeah, he's in the room.
Yeah, I think that it was an undercovered aspect from you. that like I thought there was like a man on the street interview. I didn't realize they were in the studio.
Inside the studio.
No.
Taking it out
Brought
a
a sword into the studio.
What?
Oh man, he studied the blade. You can tell.
And was
Look
this
at
like
this.
an intimidation tactic or?
Okay, I'll explain what the context is. So basically, there's a movie called Padmavati. Well, it used to be called Padmavati, but there's a huge like controversy over it because these guys got pissed. The guys in the turbans you're seeing right now, they got very. And then the guy in the host is like, why are you guys like having a sword? Is that really? He's literally asking them like, oh, is this really necessary? Do you really need to have a sword in the studio? Like, what is the use of this? He's just calmly asking like, what is the point of having a sword, right?
We want to know.
And what's the answer?
What's the? I don't. So the reason they're in the sword, they brought the sword in is like, they're threatening to basically like behead an actress and a director.
Oh my god.
And the reason that they're threatening to be is a very famous actress, like a Deepika Padukone. And she acted in the movie called Padmavat. And Padmavat is a movie about basically these guys, the Rajputs, and how they're fighting the Delhi Sultanate, which is Muslims, right? Turkish Muslim, Central Asian Muslims or whatever, right? And there's a dream sequence wherein the Muslim king or the Muslim ruler falls in love with the Rajput Hindu princess. And so these guys are bent out of shape about that. And so they're like, they have dishonored the Rajputs. They have dishonored our caste. They have dishonored the pride of the Rajputs. And we're going to, and they're burning effigies of Deepika Padukone and Sanjay Leela Bansali. So they're basically threatening to behead the director and the
actor.
Wait,
Wow.
did the Chiron just say, like, are they allowed to threaten them? Call in now to tell us or something?
Yeah, I was about to say, you said this is crazier than a news over here, but listen, that's a lot like C-SPAN.
That is crazy.
Like this
Your call's live.
That they can really call for, or sit
Those graphics
just regular
package
folks
too.
can, just because of the caste system and they're part of it and they felt like they were disrespected, they can sit there and basically a threat on national news and threaten to behead someone. Just sit there and be like, yeah, like pull up when we see you.
That's wild.
Decapitation. What?
With a sword,
that's
no
that's
less.
the thing. I mean, these guys are like well known. Karni Sen is known for being like goons, like thugs, basically.
Mm.
And the thing about Rajputs is that I think they're considered Kshatriya or whatever. Like they're considered like second, like in the overall Chaturvarna system, right? The food pyramid thing that you've seen. So they're like Rajputs. They have not all Rajputs. Okay, I have Rajputs in my community, so not all of them. You guys aren't all crazy, but there's a reputation that Rajputs have about being proud of being like a warrior clan or whatever. They talk about like, oh, we were these warrior, like, glorious warriors. We fought against the Mughals and we fought against the Muslims. Now the irony of it all is that the Rajputs were the first ones to capitulate to the Mughals.
Oh, really?
They were the first ones to capitulate to the Mughals, and on top of that, many Rajputs actually married into the Mughals, which is why if you cross the border into Pakistan, you'll have people in Pakistan, like across the border, whose last name is Rajput. So there are Rajputs that eventually converted to Islam, and that's why you have Muslims in Pakistan with the last name Rajput. I know people with the last name Rajput because of that. So they were some of the first to capitulate. So that's an ongoing meme in India. There's like tons of clips like this. Like there's another clip of primetime news where, if you want, I can show that as well. Where is a classic clip. They bring on a dude from Pakistan, and they bring on a dude obviously from India, and it's basically a dude from India and a dude from Pakistan, like shitting on each other, basically saying,
No.
"Oh, well, I'll destroy your country. No, I'll destroy your country. I'll destroy."
Oh, I thought you meant literally.
Yes.
Literally.
I didn't until you went, "Oh no," and then I was like, "Oh wait, does he mean literally?"
Yeah, because you said crazy, and I'm like, okay, so they're doing this for real.
The expectations are high after the sword thing. So.
Yeah, I was like,
How do you went up it?
they doing okay. No, but you meant going in on each other. Okay.
Yeah, they go at each other. Yeah, they're not trying to kill each other. That'd be a bit too much. But I would say that was too much. But the sword is like, I don't know. I mean, the other thing is, like, it's not as easy to get guns in India, so swords are a lot easier to brandish. But yeah, so is
that's crazy.
That's the one good thing that Modi has actually done. He's actually made it harder for people to get guns in India,
which is good. But the sword, just walking around like, yeah, play with it. I will stick this through your, like, that's crazy. And then taking it to the news station because of what you represent, and you can literally sit there, and then they have this question like, should they be able to behead these
Call in now.
Oh yeah, no, like so that goes back to like what Indian mainstream news is. Like, they basically, like you saw on John Oliver, they ask like softball questions, and they've become basically nothing more, but they've become nothing more than sheer entertainment. Another great example is like this guy called ArunAnnow Goswami. And ArunAnnow Goswami is you can kind of think of him as Tucker Carlson plus Alex Jones plus Bill O'Reilly plus what's his name, Sean Hannity, all rolled into one.
I don't like him already.
But he is
it's not even a nightmare
known for like yelling, like he's known for creating shouting matches, like at you know, on these news shows, and it's just pure entertainment. Like, it's like, and it's ironically, like, people are like, oh, you're like, John Oliver said something to the effect of like, oh no, you're scaring old people. No, that's where he's wrong. They're targeting old people. That's why. That's why there's all these loud sound effects and like everyone's shouting, because they're targeting old people. That's the, like, you ask any particular Indian like person, like my generation, their parents are watching like Republic. A lot of parents are watching Republic TV, and their grandparents are watching Republic TV, right? They're all watching that, right? And they will tell you straight up, like, their parents are watching Republic TV 100%. And like, that's the reason, like, they make it, you know, stupid. Like, they make it incredibly dumb, mindless, like, and also it's like, obviously the ideological slant is like, they love Modi. Modi's like the perfect human being. Modi, during the, you know, course of the election, said, like, towards the final, you know, I guess towards the end of the election season, because like elections actually last like 2 months. They go by phases. There's not one election day, so there's like multiple phases where different regions vote, right? So towards the end of that overall election phase, Modi unironically came out and said, I was not born biologically. I did not have a biological birth, because God sent me to this planet. That's why I have so much energy. The only way I can have this, I cannot have energy like this at this age because of a biological birth. No, God has specifically sent me to Earth, right?
So is it like a Superman thing or a Jesus thing?
Jesus.
Okay.
It's 100% Jesus. And so do people, like, because it's, I mean, if we're gonna, just hearing about this, you know, in India, like I'm Haitian, so I know the politics over there is crazy, but never heard about like what's happening in India. So, you know, it just gives, when he says that, immediately I think of, you know, the followers and people who, you know, believe in him. Like the person said, they need to have a race of little Modis around. You know, is it cult like in it, is it, can it be really extreme past just the cast, but just really extreme people fighting others over what he's saying? They believe that he actually is somebody who was sent by God and not by, because you know they believe crazy things like that. So
I mean, so if I'm understanding your question correctly, it's is the cult of personality of Modi, is it like does it get to dangerous levels?
Yes. Even with stupidity like that, like what he claims.
There's probably like a couple stories that I've covered at some point that have slipped my mind at the moment, but like, yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I have a confident answer on that. And I'm gonna answer one of the comments in the chat. You don't live in India, do you? Of course I don't live in India. Like, what am I gonna do? Risk my neck? Are you crazy? What am I gonna do? Like for a long time, it's been an impressive bloody atmosphere. Like for journalists, like India ranked below, what was it, Palestine, Turkey, I think even Somalia. India's ranked below in terms of press freedom.
Wow.
India's press freedom is significantly worse than Palestine, and that should say something.
They don't want journalists to cover, like, you know, anything. It's like kind of forbidden to be somebody who shares information that may possibly be in a way that presents the leader as bad, or presenting information to the people outside of what they want people to know.
Bingo. So, I mean, I'll give an example of this, right? So there's a guy called Sadiq Kapan, right? From the state of Kerala. And there was a gang rape case, gang sexual assault case that happened in the state of Uttar Pradesh. He went to go investigate it. And he was put in jail for 2 years because he went to go investigate it. It was a rape case against a marginalized caste girl, actually, not even woman, right? It was a gang rape case against a Dalit person. And he went to go investigate it, and he got put in jail. He had like trumped up corruption, like what was it, financial charges or something, because, and everyone knew it was fake. Everyone knows that they wanted to put him in jail to make sure that to send a message basically saying like, hey, don't you dare, do not even try this.
Wow.
There was a journalist, Gauri Lankesh, that was assassinated in Karnataka, just straight up assassinated. It's an incredibly oppressive, like there are some opinions that you can't even voice out loud in India. Like you cannot, there are people that I know that have very progressive opinions on Kashmir, but they're not able to actually voice it because of how like the Indian state will treat them. Like if they say it, like they're scared of like what the kind of repercussions that will happen, because there's a law on the books called the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, right? And it's basically an incredibly draconian law that was on the books like several decades ago. It predates BJP. But basically, it's an anti-terrorism law that can be abused, and it is abused to basically lock up people that they suspect of being terrorists or being aiding and abetting terrorists. And there are many people that were locked up. There were many activists that were locked up. An example of someone that was just released was GN Sai Baba. And they accused him of having links to the Maoists in India, the Naxals in India, the Maoist movement, which at this point is a dead movement. The Maoists have no sort of traction whatsoever. They're basically dead at this point, right? No one talks about them, and in mainstream Indian, or at least in mainstream Indian discourse, the Maoists are basically just nothing more than a what do you call it, like a scapegoat, or like a tool used to fearmonger against people. So another thing that people will call you is like, if you're a progressive, they'll call you an urban Naxal, right? So they're insinuating that if you're progressive in any particular way, they, you know, you're a city dwelling like Naxal Maoist sort of person. And weirdly enough, unlike America, India never had a red scare to begin with. Like if you try and bring up like, oh, you're a socialist, like, oh, you're a communist, like a couple of decades ago, they'd be like, yeah, of course I am. And there are people even in Tamil Nadu, like example, there's a guy called Annamalai, who's a BJP guy who lost, and he's basically an utter clown. He's kind of like our Eric Adams in a sense, but significantly funnier. Because I just saw.
I doubt that.
No, he's way funnier. I get no. From what I've seen of Eric Adams and what I've seen of this guy, no, this dude's way funnier than Eric Adams. Like straight up comedian. Dude basically he's talking about a case he was on. He was just describing the plot of a movie, basically. So he made up like he was basically making up a case. No, the case is actually real, but the way he narrated it was like it was just straight out of a movie, and like people placed the actual movie plot next to what he was saying. So it was super funny, and he's crazy. No one likes him. Like no one likes him where I'm from, right? But he's like an AstroTurf candidate. But a lot of people, even though this dude's a BJP guy, he's a fascist, he's a cop, right? One of the things that people used to praise him was that he's a quote unquote socialist. So for even today, socialism is not a dirty term in India. It's not a very like dirty term in the same way that it is in the United States, right? Communist, socialist, it's not a huge like, it's not a bad word to say in India in the same sense. But the sort of, there is a kind of red scare in India, and that is as a result of the Naxals. And that is because the Naxals have killed innocent people through their activities. Now, again, the Naxals exist precisely due to the horrific conditions that, partially due to the horrific conditions that the indigenous people of India, the Adivasis, are put through. But part of the Red Scare was sort of due to the some of the tactics that the Maoists use in India, the Naxals used. So they use that. So if there is a semblance of a Red Scare, and they're like, "Oh, you're progressive," they'll specifically reference the Naxals. They'll specifically reference the Naxalites, basically. But yeah, there's a significant amount of nonsense and brain rot.
With the whole journalist thing, I remember years and years ago when I was a little thing on at FAMU, the #1 HBCU in the nation, but at Florida A&M University, I had a friend. She was Indian. Can't remember her name because it was so long ago. We were like 19-year-olds in our class, and we would take journalism courses, and a lot of, it's predominantly Black university, but we took her on. Loved her. She was from India. She literally came to come to the school to study journalism. Her dad was not here at the time, but he did come and get her. She was saying she was afraid because she's not supposed to be studying journalism. It's against like the rules, the law, something like that. She was explaining to us. And then one day she was telling us that she's scared, but she just wants to finish the program at least. And one day she told us, like, I probably won't see me because my family, my father specifically doesn't want me to do it. He's been getting word back, and they're finding out what I'm doing. And so I have to go back. I can no longer study. One day we came back and she was gone. Never seen her again. Wherever she's at in the world, I hope she's okay. But that was so long ago.
It's horrifying, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It is an incredibly oppressive atmosphere in India, for sure. Like a guy called Stan Swami, who was he was a Catholic priest, or he's a Catholic priest that was actually a huge, like, he worked a lot, especially within the Adivasi community, right? And he worked extensively with them. But because he worked extensively with the Adivasi community, and he, tried to uplift their sort of situation, and he tried to help them, right? The government branded him as a Naxal. Right, they branded him as like a Maoist, and they threw him in jail using the UAPA, and he died. He's like a 70, 80-year-old man. Like he's struggling. He was just doing his thing, and he was trying to He was just trying to, work with indigenous people, and the conditions of the indigenous people are bloody awful. Just for the record, right? What was it, Keystone XL pipeline, where the pipeline was directly polluting, Lakota, Dakota land.
Yep.
There's a very similar situation happening in the Niamgiri Hills of Odisha, right? And there's an indigenous group of people called the Dongriakons, and basically their rivers are being polluted because of they're mining. This company called Vedanta is actually mining. It's a huge mining company in that region. So they were mining in that particular, I guess, indigenous group of people's region, the Niamgiri Hills. The Niamgiri Hills are like, for these people, they're incredible. Like it's religiously important. It's incredibly like, it's incredibly important, right? And it's religiously important. It's their land, right? But because of partially because of Modi, and Vedanta is one of the companies that gave hundreds of millions and of Indian rupees to the Modi government, they've been polluting the river, and they're getting poisoned as a result of it. And so that leads people from, Dongriakons are not necessarily associated with the Maoists. The relationship with the Adivasi, between the Adivasis and the Maoists is a bit more complicated. It's not as like open as like, it's not directly it's not as directly connected as many in the chat are saying. It's not like, oh, all Adivasis are joining the Maoists or whatever. It's not like the Maoists are like the only vanguard of the Adivasis, because there's multiple different Adivasi groups. It's silly to say. But the Dongriakons have been resisting in their own particular way against the government. But the Stan Swami went to go help some of these people, these indigenous Adivasi people. He got thrown in prison, and he died in prison because they I think it was like he needed diabetic medicine, or he needed dialysis or something, and they denied it to him. And they repeatedly engaged in custodial violence against Stan Swami. And he's a 70, 80-year-old man.
Jesus.
That's the level of like, there's also cases like Bhima Koregaon. There's multiple cases there's multiple people that were like, another case where it's not journalism per se. One of the most high profile cases in India of a guy being locked under this UAPA law is a guy called Umar Khalid. And Umar Khalid was a guy at JNU. He's a communist dude, right? Wonderful leftist guy, right? He was a dude. Parkinson's, thank you. He had Parkinson's disease, but they denied him medicine basically. They denied him medicine in prison, basically. Basically, Umar Khalid. Yes, Umar Khalid is a high profile. He was a JNU student, or he was like a PhD student, I guess, or PhD postdoc, and he was protesting. One of the things that he was protesting was the CAA-NRC law, which is basically the two sets of laws that create. The CAA is Citizenship Amendment Act, which basically gives fast-track citizenship to select groups of Hindu refugees leaving Muslim-majority countries. So specifically, it targets Hindus and religious minorities coming from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. Right? Now, curiously, it leaves out Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka is actually, out of all of the countries in South Asia, Sri Lanka is the one country that has actually committed a direct genocide, a straight up, no holds barred genocide, and continues to commit a straight genocide. Exactly what you're seeing in Gaza right now. They did the same thing 15 years ago against the Hindu minority. Or against
15 years ago.
They did this 15 years ago. I grew up with those war crimes. I grew up seeing those war crimes Sri Lanka committed against the Tamils. Right? I'm Tamil. They're the war crimes. The Sri Lankan government committed against the Tamils, I grew up seeing those war crimes. So I grew up seeing that shit. So they basically, out of all of the countries, curiously, India doesn't include Hindus that are escaping Sri Lanka, but they're specifically targeting Hindus fleeing Muslim majority countries. Now, is it true that Hindus are persecuted in these countries? Yeah, absolutely. They're a minority. They're a minority in all these countries, and minorities are usually, if they don't have any sort of wealth or any accumulated power or whatever, they're more likely to be they're going to be persecuted, and that's true. But the way they weaponize CIA is to target the Muslim countries in particular, the Muslim majority countries, right? NRC, the other half of this, is to create a particular registry of citizens. Now, they basically did it so that they required, and I'm basically very paraphrasing everything that the law is, but it basically requires you to present evidence of your citizenship. So you basically have to prove, like your grandparents, and you have to prove adequate documentation that you have been in here. Especially if you're Muslim, right? You have to prove that you've been here long enough. Now, the reason it's an anti-Muslim thing in particular is that a lot of Muslims in India, economically, they have to deal with they're not in the most economically great position. They're dealing with horrific economic conditions in India. A lot of Muslims are. So this specifically targets them, the Muslims that are not able to prove it, right? So this, in conjunction with the CAA, means that, well, if you're stripped of your citizenship through NRC, right, you'll be given it back if you belong to a Hindu tradition, Hindu, Buddhist, Dharmic religion, or if you're Christian, you'll be given your citizenship back, right? But if you're Muslim, you don't get it back. So that's why the two laws are considered very dangerous. And Umar Khalid was protesting those laws. They locked him up, threw him in jail, and now he's still in jail. He's been in jail for like what, 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. He's been in jail for quite a long time, and he's still in jail. There has been no, like, he's been demanding bail for the past, like, they just recently, the Supreme Court just denied his bail, and they didn't want to hear any of it. And there's also, and it's not just journalists, by the way. They straight up arrest politicians. There's a former chief minister called Hemant Soren. Umar Khalid has not been granted bail even by the Supreme Court. His bail has been denied. They wouldn't even hear his case. Umar Khalid wouldn't even hear his case at this point, right? Sorry, the Supreme Court wouldn't hear Umar Khalid's case at this point, right? And then there's Shaheen Bagh. There's multiple pogroms done by the Delhi government as well.
So with all of like this, you have the media's role, you have politicians' role, you have the leaders' role, and stuff like that. Someone in the chat, Hypno Amber, asked, "What is social media's role in Indian politics? Like politics in India? Like how does that affect?"
Sorry, I just saw a chat. I cannot help myself. I'm a streamer. I read chat. I respect that you're honest about historical facts, even though you soft on Modi. What? When have I been soft on Modi?
He called him a Nazi earlier.
I called him a Nazi. What?
No, yeah,
what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, he said he was bad, but not, as bad as other people. But what is social media's role in? Because I know there's a limitation, there's restrictions when it comes to journalists. So what about on social media? How does that work with Indian politics?
So BJP has their own. Okay, so this goes back to the Sanghis in Palestine, right? So part of a lot of the proliferation of Hindu nationalists that you're seeing online is deliberate. It's done by the BJP themselves directly. The BJP has a specific division called, it's a well-known division called IT Cell, right? It's a well-known division called the IT Cell. It's headed by a guy called Amit Malviya. And they basically, their job is to basically spread misinformation wherever they go, right? So their job is to literally manufacture lies or like twist facts. And they basically, I mean, WhatsApp is not super common in the United States, but WhatsApp is insanely common in India, right? Everyone uses WhatsApp. I think they also use it in Haiti, right, Rebecca?
Absolutely. That's my mom's go. She don't know how to use no kind of text message, no nothing, but she know how to use WhatsApp.
Exactly.
They use
So
WhatsApp
they-
everywhere, but in the US.
It's
honestly.
massive in
That
it's
seems
massive
to
in
be
the UK as
case.
well.
I use
I-
WhatsApp.
I use WhatsApp. Yeah, I use WhatsApp.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Everywhere
like,
but America.
basically the idea is like they deliberately spread misinformation
Mm.
on WhatsApp.
Yes, they do.
And they specifically do that. And a great example is like they'll doctor evidence basically, and they'll spread like nonsense about, oh, this Muslim lynched like this Hindu or some nonsense or whatever. Another one there's an outlet called Op India, right? And Op India is basically Indian Stormfront plus Breitbart. Basically, that's what Op India is. And to give you an idea of how horrific these people are, they quite literally made up a story about human sacrifice, Muslims sacrificing like children in Bihar, and it was so egregious that they were that in FIR, First Information Report, which is like they don't have those in the United States, but it's basically like a police report that you can submit into the police department, basically saying, hey, can you investigate this, right? So that's a FIR, right? So an FIR was placed on this organization. Now think about how heinous an organization you have to be to like have an FIR slapped on you in Modi's administration, right? So Op India is an organization that has specifically Op India is like churning out these news stories, and Amit Malviya and the BJP IT cell will spread these fake stories either from Op India or Swarajya magazine or whatever the fuck. Jaipur Dialogues is another one of these like pro Modi guys, and it goes even deeper than that, because Jaipur Dialogues and a lot of these like organizations, like there's a college organization called Hindus on Campus, right? And they're like supposedly like a grassroots Hindu organization. Complete bullshit. If you look below far enough, there's RSS backing, there's VHP backing, there's Hindu nationalist backing. Bullshit. They're funneling money back to these organizations.
Oh wow.
They're being the VHP is sending money over here, and then they're sending money back to the VHP as well. The same thing with Hindu American Foundation. Hindu American Foundation is also one of these so-called like Hindu rights activist organizations that is like, again, what you'll see a lot of is they'll appropriate either liberal or even leftist anti-imperialist language to further their own fascism. So it's like, how dare the West lecture us on, or like, oh, we Hindus are, we are like they co-opt a lot of talking points to be like some like to spread their own nonsense basically. But yeah, like so the social media, at least from the BJP and RSS and VHP and all of the Sangh Parivar side, goes incredibly deep. And there's a law that was passed that the BJP basically passed, or I think it was in Parliament or something. I don't remember the status at this point. I'm like super tired. But basically,
well, Kavernacle's up at 3:30 a.m. I think, if I'm not wrong on the time, right?
No, it's 10:33 here.
Is it? Oh.
No,
I was talking about Kavernacle. He's muted. I can't hear you right now. You muted your account, but I think it's 3:30 in England.
Yeah, it is. I don't want you to hear me breathing if I start.
Yeah.
The heavy breathing was coming in because maybe he's tired. He is tired.
I'm honestly okay. I stay up till 7 last night editing my videos. So.
And where are you?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you don't have to say. I mean, like the country.
I'm in England right now.
Oh, okay. London. Well, I mean, your accent gave it away, but I just couldn't. I can't just be like, oh, that's where you are. Just I wouldn't. But yeah, okay, gotcha.
So people in the chat, I'm not going to bed for another 4 hours, so don't worry about me.
He's up and he's stuck.
Well, I guess we could do the David thing since he's gone. But this is.
His baby was putting out his business. No, he had to go.
Yeah.
He had dad
Talk about
duties.
Dhruv
And
Rathi. So I do want to give a shout out to Dhruv Rathi. Well, shout out because I disagree with Dhruv Rathi a lot. He's a lib, and he has some insane takes about Black Lives Matter, and he has some weird takes about like I guess feminism or something. He has some really bizarre takes, but one of the reasons that Modi lost his majority can actually kind of be attributed to him. To what extent we don't know, but this dude, this dude's a YouTuber basically, and like a couple of years ago, this dude was basically making videos. I mean, he was beefing with actual like he was beefing with like right winger YouTube channels like String, who's also like a Nazi like Hindu nationalist account, you know, demagogue or whatever, and he was doing some weird memes like, oh, like String is drinking piss from a bottle or something like that. He was beefing with him. And he's now graduated to a point where like he's influencing national elections because he basically made a video about how India is turning into a dictatorship. And people unironically started watching that. And people were like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? And the thing is, he does a lot of lib whispering. So he does a lot of lib whispering, and so he's able to basically convince a lot of people that would normally be on the fence, that would just default vote for Modi, because Modi originally was like for a long time, basically the consensus was that the overall sentiment was that Modi was the only option, and that's part of why Modi like crafted the image that he did. Right, of like, oh, he's just obviously he's a very good guy. What do you mean? He's a wonderful, like, he's the only option. What do you mean? So that's partially why he didn't delve into he wasn't the one that did all the Islamophobia. I mean, he did engage in Islamophobia for sure. It's not to say that he didn't, but there was an image that he had to maintain basically, right? Among like he had to maintain this like Vishwaguru, like, saintly almost image of himself. And this one video kind of cracked that a little bit. And that succeeded followed by the manifesto set forth by the Congress Party, which is arguably one of the most progressive manifestos I've seen in India, or at least from Congress from a while, right? At least from a liberal party like Congress, for sure. Right. And there's a lot of, social welfare. There's a lot of like, social justice. There's a bid to increase reservation or remove the limit from reservation entirely, actually, from affirmative action. They wanted to actually sort of fix the root cause of the farmers' issues, which was a minimum viable price, according to the Swaminathan Commission. Right, they wanted to make sure that farmers could actually sell their crops, especially in places like Punjab, at a competitive price, right? At a relatively competitive price, so that they can live. It was a really good manifesto, comparatively speaking, compared to what Congress has done. So Dhruv Rathi, this YouTuber dude, coupled with the Congress manifesto, really, I think those were two of the factors that actually, led to Modi taking this, huge fat L. I think it was that manifesto plus this, because you had people in the streets saying like, oh, like you had like, so you also have like random like upstart YouTubers that will just like interview people on the streets, like, hey, what do you think of Modi? What do you think of this? Oh, don't you think that Modi is like the best leader ever or whatever? And don't you think that Muslims are bad and Muslims they're just making babies and like they're trying to replace the population or whatever? And then, oh, don't you think there's a controversy with the manifesto itself, wherein there's a controversy where I think it was either Modi, Amit Shah, I don't remember who it was, but they basically said that the manifesto gives preferential treatment to Muslims. Like they give all the, like basically when it comes to wealth redistribution, that was one of the claims, like, oh, Congress wants to do complete wealth redistribution, like they accused of, like the BJP accused Congress of like, oh, doing Islamic communism or Bolshevik communist or Bolshevik Islamism or whatever the fuck.
It sounds like the fear mongering about immigrants here, like how they're getting all these social safety net benefits and whatnot, at least similar.
Yeah, I mean but the difference is like those people are like they've always been in India for a long time. That's the only difference. So, but then what was interesting to see was that during the election season, just before the elections actually started, you actually had people pulling out who had printed out the Congress manifesto, and these are people like there's some people that were like in the core BJP voter base, all else equal, right? When asked, like, oh, do you think that the Congress manifesto is like overtly helping Muslims or whatever? They whipped out the manifesto and they literally retorted to the interviewers saying, hey, where does it say Muslim here? Where does it say Muslim? Where is it Muslim? Where does it say Muslim? And you had other people in the streets quite literally saying, well, this is how I know all this fucked up shit is happening, because I watched that Dhruv Rathi video, right? I watched this YouTuber's video. So that was a really interesting thing to see. It was a really, I mean, in a sense, heartening thing to see, that people are changing their minds and people are capable of change. So it was a very heartening thing to see. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that for a second, because that was one thing I did notice. And yeah, like you saw this really weird, Titanic shift. You had this weird Titanic shift in what was going on in for the past 10 years. And basically all the Indians that I've talked to in India have basically, after the election results happened, they're like, oh, a weight has just been lifted off of my neck. Jesus Christ, thank God. I can breathe easier a little bit. Because it is, I mean, it's a marginal victory, and technically the NDA still won, right? They still won, but the BJP went into this election basically saying like, oh, we're invincible. We're going to win like all the seats. And so they basically like, now I had basically said, like, people had been coming into my chat saying like, oh, they're going to win 400. They're going to win 300. And I'm like, wait and see. You guys are wrong. They're not going to win that. They're not going to win that many seats. Trust me on this. And I was right. I was vindicated on that. Because I have most of my community is in India. They live in India. Like, I have people from Uttar Pradesh. I have people from Delhi. I know people from Kerala. I know people living in I have people in Pakistan. I have people in Sri Lanka right now that I'm constantly talking to, getting like real-time on the ground information. So that's how I was able to predict. Like, when the exit polls came out, all the mainstream media was saying, oh, well, BJP, it seems like the NDA, the BJP's alliance, is going to win like 401 seats in parliament. Seems like that's the case, isn't it? What was going on there? And like, it was just purely manufactured consent by all of the mainstream news outlets in India. And the first thing I came on and said was, do not trust these exit polls. Do not trust these exit polls. They're either lying through their teeth, or they're complete morons. They do not know what they're talking about. So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I just went off on a tangent. I don't remember what we were talking about.
It's fine.
No,
I mean,
interesting.
we're well past the end of the podcast anyway. It's like we went past 7:30 a while ago.
Yeah, I love that you're letting us know that as content creators ourselves, our power level can potentially be increased to the point where we can influence elections in a major way. That's scary.
I've always believed it.
And encouraging.
No, it's weird. Like, I usually am not the kind of guy that's like, oh, you can't influence elections. In America, I feel like in America, in the US, I feel like there's a lot more of a stranglehold on elections, and it's like basically the candidates have already been, like, because of the primary process, the candidates have already been picked, right? Whereas I feel like in India, like, it's I guess the quote unquote so-called democratic institutions that the US and the UK are quote unquote used to haven't fully formed yet quite a bit. But in India, in the sense of like, there's still a lot of influence to be had. It's not like, that also means that like the big changes can be made in a sense. Like, it was like, if you had told me like a year ago, like, I kind of knew that BJP always, like, this is a weak election for the BJP like a year ago, but had you told me that this YouTuber would have made this much, like, enough of a dent to have people literally in the streets referencing him in particular, right? referencing this guy in particular of all people, right? I would have said, "Get the fuck out of here." I don't believe you for a second, right? But India is a wild enough place where that can actually happen. But the other thing is, like, are there any places in India that want independence? Kashmir, that's probably the biggest one. There are also insurgent groups in the northeast, but again, they've largely gone underground for the most part because the Indian government has kind of gotten a stranglehold over the northeast. So the only real, and also there's Khalistan as well, which is again, Khalistan was basically shut down by India. They were brutally crushed by the Indian government, and Khalistan is a movement that desired a separate Sikh state. Khalistan movement has its own bloody issues because, like, Khalistan is dominated by Jat Sikhs, dominant caste Sikhs. It also has a caste problem, right? So there's a lot of nuance to this stuff that I can't get into right now, obviously. But
well, we're at the end of the show, and we're going to transition to super chats. Both Cav and Arun, you're both welcome to stay as long as you want. But before we get there, please, both of you, let us know what you do, or I guess you could have told us what you do, but where we could find you.
Plug your socials, basically.
Content. Yeah, just plug away.
Get more internet famous.
Sure. So my name is ArunAnnow. I'm the Indian Hasanabi. I cover, again, Indian politics, Pakistani politics, Sri Lankan politics, Bangladeshi politics, sometimes Nepali politics. I cover subcontinental politics. You can find me over at Twitch. I stream there mostly. You can find me over at Twitter. Again, the names are all going to be the exact same. ArunAnnow. Same names are exactly the same. And yeah, thank you guys for inviting me onto the podcast. I appreciate it.
It was great having you.
Yeah, absolutely
Very
great
I
having
learned
you.
so fucking much.
I hope so.
I feel like I'm going to re-listen to this podcast right afterwards to get all the details.
It was a
again.
room show.
Yeah. Cav.
It makes you realize how, like, just fucking ignorant you are. Like, this is like the biggest country in the world, like, by population?
It is now, yeah. We surpassed. I say we, but I'm an American citizen at this point. But like, we as in, yes, India has surpassed China in terms of population.
Wow.
It is so crazy just because it's like, it's not only the biggest with China, it's like one of the oldest, like, civilizations we have, like, loads of documents of as well. And obviously because the British colonized it, you think there'd be more of a focus on it. And just, you know, in London, like, we're talking about, like, Indian communities, like where I grew up in London is literally, like, mostly Indian as well. So it's just, like, so crazy. Everything you were saying, not everything, but, like, lots of it was just, like, completely new information I'd never ever heard of. I think it's, like, obviously bad for Western media that we just don't really cover it.
I mean, I don't blame Western media for not covering it in the first place, because it can, like, again, there's when I went on Hassan's show to talk about this, there's a sort of balancing act that I had to do, like I'm doing here, which I don't do on my stream, obviously, because like most of my audience is Indian, so I don't have to explain anything to them. In fact, oftentimes they're giving me, ground level information, right? But I don't have to explain the memes about, like, Rajputs. I don't have to explain the memes about, the only time I actually really end up doing that is when I talk about Sri Lanka, because most of my audience, they're not from Sri Lanka. So they don't really know much about what happened and what is continuing to happen in Sri Lanka. So that's probably the only time when I mention it. But it's very hard because it's you have, like, hundreds of different ethnic groups and thousands of different castes, hundreds of different languages. And it's a very chaotic place in general.
It's such a fucking huge country as well, which I don't think we really appreciate, because we just think of, like, India, Hindu, Muslim, like, and we perceive it to be a certain thing, but then just the way you talk about it, it's just so much more complex than, like, most countries. But anyway, I'll just, sorry, I meant to be promoting myself, but I'm just saying I learned a lot on this podcast. But yeah, just for me, the Kavernacle on YouTube, I mean, everywhere. So just go search for that. YouTube's the main one.
Yeah, subscribe to them both. Thank you both for being here. Again, feel free to stay or go. It's totally up to you. We don't hold anyone hostage here. Sometimes these go on really long, but we'll get to the super chats now.
Sure. I'll
Don't,
probably stick around for a little bit.
Don't
All
read
right.
David's. Don't do David's work for him.
Just pull. Look, just pull mine up.
I get to the hour at least. And then
Just pull mine up. I have one, and I'm out of here. Okay.
Okay,
Look.
okay, let me find it. Is that the Omega one, Rebecca?
It's the Omega one.
All right.
Good to see you, Rebecca. Happy Pride to all who celebrate. Yes, it's great to see you too, Omega. And happy Pride to everybody. Happy Pride Month and happy Juneteenth month and all the other great things. Caribbean month. It's a whole bunch of things this month, but we're going to celebrate
Indigenous History Month too.
Indigenous history, all of the
going
good
on.
things. We're going to celebrate each and every one of them.
Yep.
So happy everything to everybody. And again, Arun, thank you so much. You definitely taught me a lot on this episode, and nice to meet you, Kavernacle. Okay, great to, and I love your accent. All right, y'all, I'm out. Look, ain't got no job, but I'm still out.
Take care, Rebecca.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Mike, can I go next? I only have one, but I'll stay afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think I saw yours, Lance.
All right,
It
so
is-
I got here. So Ren with the $5. The view in your new apartment is great. I now live in the
No.
mountains. This is beautiful British Columbia behind me. This is where I stream from every day.
That's amazing, Lance. How
I
do you get
know.
internet up there? You look
It's
like
the
you're
one
pretty
super
high up.
chat that pays for everything. They bought
Okay.
my fucking mountain complex. It's awesome.
All right, I see you're rocking a shirt. I see some familiar faces on there.
This
Very
is
nice.
the
Oh,
classic one when
sick.
we had Oriami and
Oh, the
Rebecca.
original one.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. See,
Yeah.
the one that goes for a lot of money is the one with triangle head. That
Yeah,
one
of
is like
course.
it's a limited print. I'm just kidding. We don't have I should not have said shit.
I'm not gonna say anything, but that actually feels like a fever dream. But that's how it started.
My God.
It does
I
to
mean,
me too.
really,
yeah.
the whole thing started that election night stream from Lance, where
When Joe Brandon got elected. That was
Yeah,
the first episode, I think. Yeah.
No, it was the 2022 midterms actually.
Oh,
wasn't
you're
it?
right.
Yeah,
You're
I was
right.
just
It
like
wasn't.
4
You're right. It was
years ago,
midterms.
it's definitely
Yeah.
not 4
Yeah, although
we
we
started
were
Leftist
there
Mafia
in
4
20
years ago. We've been doing this for 4 years now. Yeah.
I
do
know,
you
I was on
remember?
Lance's stream in 2020, and I think David was too. So it was
Yeah.
similar, but we just never did anything after that. We fucked off.
And I fucked up.
All right, so
All right, take it away.
we've got this one from Kowalski. This is either for David or Matt.
This is for me. Kowalski with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much. 80 years ago today, the Antifa armies of the world conducted one of the largest military operations in history. Soviet, Brits, Americans, French, and even Canadians formed the UN Antifa Army.
Oh, enlist today. Antifa.org.
I got into a fight with my parents about this because the D-Day celebrations, obviously, and I'm just so sick of not the whitewashing, but if you're not in the UK, there are war memorials like everywhere to World War I and World War II, and we just use it so much in our politics as like some sort of like far right garbage, like talking about World War I. So I just said I was sick of it, and they got mad, like, oh, but all those people who died on D-Day, and I'm like, yeah, I appreciate it, but then like also after the war, and like Joe Biden standing there, like, and he's just backing a genocide right now. I'm just like, yeah, it kind of like leaves a sour taste in my mouth to see him and President Macron like at D-Day. So it's like, although yeah, it's a good thing. The guy left the super chat. At the same time, like, I'm a bit sick of it now, to be honest. History didn't end with World War II. Like, the bad guys weren't defeated forever in 1945. Most of them
we'd like
joined
to
NASA.
think so.
NASA and the CIA.
Okay, so we have another one here.
Oh, it's
Matt?
me. James Bishop with a super chat. Lost my job because my company got taken over, but I hope this helps getting a new beat. Oh, you don't have to. If you lost your job, you don't have to send me money.
Yeah, send your
But I
pension.
appreciate it, James. What? I mean, you don't work there anymore. Who got taken over by what? If you don't mind sharing. I mean, interesting.
Okay, this one's from me here from Joe Greer, $20. Thank you so much. That's a very generous super chat. We don't have sound bites because David is not here, but imagine an applause or something, or like a Trump sound bite. Mike, did anybody give you the courage to come out? Over 10 years ago, my idol Stone Cold Steve Austin came out in full support of gay marriage. That's when I decided to come out. I hope one day I can thank him. That's really cool. I don't.
Did he? I don't remember that even.
Yeah,
Stone
I
Cold
don't
did
know.
that?
I feel like you would be the one that would know.
It sounds like a meme, so I hope it's like not fake.
Yeah, I have no
There's so
idea.
many Stone Cold Steve Austin memes.
I don't know. It's been a while now. If anybody really encouraged me, maybe my friend, because she was bisexual, and that was like the first queer person that I got to know the most. But I don't know if it was any one person. It was just kind of like me being ready. But that's however it happens. That's awesome.
I mean, I will say it does seem like he's actually a lot of the WWE guys who you'd think would be extremely conservative are actually surprisingly not, like JBL. And I've heard Stone Cold. I didn't know about this one specifically, but I've heard he's been like that. But then there's also people like Kane, who is Mr. MAGA, as he's a mayor of some small town in Tennessee. And then you got The Undertaker, who's wearing his Blue Lives Matter shirts. So it's hit or miss.
Really?
Go either way with these guys, yeah.
Yeah, he did actually say it. He actually did defend gay marriage in 2014. Just the start of it. I don't give a shit if two guys, two gals, guy, gal, whatever it is. I believe that any human being in America or any human being in the goddamn world that wants to be married, and if it's same sex, more power to him. And it's like a big long rant, basically.
Okay.
So this is like 10 years ago, so I guess it is real.
All right, well, good for him. Good for him. He's a year later than Hillary Clinton, but better late than never.
This one, it's interesting because I thought for a second it was going to be.
You want to read yours, Arun?
Yeah, I think I got a super chat. That's crazy.
Oh, you got cool. Go ahead.
Oh, that's crazy. It's the Ron6751. I think I don't know how to pull it up.
Here we go.
Yeah, since you cover Pakistani politics, how different is Pakistani politics to India regarding oppression? Okay, so in many ways, I guess the bigotry is identical. It is almost exactly one for one the exact same thing that you would see in India. The difference is that Pakistan has a caste system, but it's kind of morphed into basically what is now religious lines. So I was talking about Hindu and Christian oppression in Pakistan. A lot of the Hindus and Christians in Pakistan, actually, if you go back far enough, they come from marginalized castes. So part of the oppression that they have to face is really religious. It's a mix of religious bigotry from, obviously fundamentalist Muslims. But it's also an undercurrent of caste if you really look down underneath the surface. Aside from that, I mean, you can there's a huge level of like regional bigotry because Punjab in Pakistan like dominates politics, right? So the Punjab province of Pakistan it dominates politics. A great example is Zia-ul Haq. Zia-ul Haq is, one of Pakistan's most notorious dictators. He's the guy that basically introduced, not in full, but he started the introduction of Sharia law into Pakistan. So he started, he advocating for stuff like if you steal, get your hand cut, stuff like that. He started advocating, like he was a military dictator, but he comes from Punjab as well. So Punjab is and PMLN, their center of power, Lahore and northern Punjab province as well. The two most dominant provinces in Pakistan with regards to politics are Punjab and Sindh. And the PTI, Imran Khan's party, they came as sort of a third option, and their base of power is partially also in Punjab, but for the most part, their base of power is actually in KPK, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is actually the region it's now KPK. It used to be both KPK, KPN, Fatah, federally administered tribal areas of Pakistan. Those two regions were actually the reason, they're the regions that the US and Pakistan actually bombed the most, right? So when they were trying to get the Taliban, they were trying to get Osama bin Laden, all the stuff you heard about bombing, drone striking Pakistan on the news, it was this region that they bombed, right? The KPK region, right? KPK province, and Fatah. So Imran Khan's party is actually, because Imran Khan himself is a Pashtun guy, so he's the center of his party's powers in Pashtun, but Pashtuns have basically been, again, they've been directly drone striked by the U.S. and the Pakistani army as well. They've been attacked left and right. They've given a shit ton of blood for Pakistan. and they have received fuck all in return. And there's another can of worms in Balochistan, because Balochistan is actually Pakistan's poorest region, and they have I think they're mineral rich or something, but they're the region of Pakistan, they're the province of Pakistan that is most exploited by the center, by Islamabad, right? And there's a separatist movement, there's an independence movement led by the BLA, Baloch Liberation Army, and various other Baloch militant groups, and they got brutally suppressed. And there's actually an ongoing there's an ongoing, string is not the right word, but there's continued forced disappearances of Baloch people in all across the country. And basically the Pakistani state is using the BLA and, these Baloch militant groups as an excuse to basically, forcibly disappear these Baloch people and never make sure that their families never hear from them again. And it's basically a wholesale genocide that the Pakistani government is committing against the Baloch people, and it gets underreported. No one talks about it because again, the only country that has like really a vested, quote unquote, vested interest in quote unquote helping the Baloch would be India, because again, it's a way of countering Pakistan. But and Baloch people are not only oppressed in Iran, for the record, as Pakistan, they're also oppressed in Iran as well, because Balochistan in Iran is also the poorest country in that poorest region in that country too, right? And so both Iran and Pakistan have taken turns basically abusing the Baloch people and brutalizing them for decades at this point. And then there's also there's an ethnic group called Saraikis, whose entire existence is denied by Punjabi nationalists. Because Punjabi nationalists basically say, hey, you Saraikis are not anything different than Punjabi, so your entire identity is fake. You're Sindhis, you're settler Baloch. I have seen, no joke, I have seen Punjabi nationalists accusing this ethnic group of being basically Zionists, settling on Punjabi land. Even though it's their land, they're native to the areas around Multan in what they call Saraiki Vaseb, right? So they're native to that region, but they've been continually denied by Punjabi nationalists. And then on top of that, so this is just regional bigotry. And then we haven't even gotten to the kind of bullshit that Pakistani-controlled Kashmir has to deal with. Because Pakistani-controlled Kashmir cannot vote in national elections. They are literally second-class citizens. They have their own sort of, local parliament, local legislative council, but it's basically run by the army. And Gilgit-Baltistan is another region that is part of the overall Kashmir region that's been completely neglected by Pakistan. But then on top of that, there's the stuff that Ahmadis have to deal with, right? So the Ahmadi Muslim community are actually a Muslim community that started in the subcontinent, right? And they are considered blasphemers by many Muslims. They're actually considered complete blasphemers. They're considered not Muslims, and many Muslims will not even use the word Ahmadi Muslims. They'll say you're Qadianis. And basically the idea is that they believe something like the Messiah has already returned, something to that effect. And that's why many hardline Muslims in Pakistan who have a lot of influence in the government now hate Ahmadis. Like, for example, a great example of this is, I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy called Abdus Salam. He's a Nobel, I think, what was it? The Nobel physics winner or something? Nobel
The name
science
sounds
winner?
familiar, but I'm not.
He did groundbreaking work with regards to, like, I think the nuclear weak force or electroweak theory or something along. He was approaching the theory of everything. He was a physicist, right? And he's one of the few dudes. He's probably the only dude to ever get a prize in the country for that. But he comes from the Ahmadi community, right? And so, decade or so after he died, I think after Ziaul Haq took power, long after Ziaul Haq took power, Ziaul Haq was an Islamic Muslim fundamentalist. Abdus Salam, this dude who comes from the Ahmadiyya community, his tombstone was defaced. The term Muslim, world's first Muslim Nobel scientist, Nobel winner. The word Muslim was removed, was etched out of the gravestone, the tombstone.
Wow.
That's how much
Jesus.
erasure and that's how much bigotry Ahmadis have to deal with on a regular basis. And there's also anti-Shia hatred as well in Pakistan as well. So again, in a similar sense to how India works, like India is basically, if you have any sort of weaponizable identity, that it will be weaponized against you. For the most part, I come from a very privileged caste background. I come from a very privileged. I mean, the only thing that you can pretty much weaponize about me is the fact that I come from Tamil Nadu, and so the sort of bigotry that comes my way is, the N-word, you're dark skinned, blackie, like those kinds of terms, right? Like Kalu is a word that they use all the time, and it translates as that particular term. Those sorts of, so that's the only bigotry that I have to face, right? There are people that face far worse bigotry than me, but like in a similar sense to how in India, if you have a weaponizable identity that the state can use and very far right fundamentalists can use to weaponize against you, the same thing goes for Pakistan. It's the exact same thing. So if you have something, if you were born into a particular family, the wrong kind of family, and you happen to have an identity that is not, I guess, weaponized, that can't be weaponized, or that can be weaponized against you, it will be weaponized against you. So in that sense, the bigotry, I mean, the ways it manifests is somewhat different, and the actual identities being oppressed is quite different in Pakistan. But generally speaking, it's generally the same kind of environment that India is. I said this before. North India and Pakistan are basically the same country, in my view. They're basically the same bloody country, especially as a South Indian. In fact, North India has culturally far more in common with Pakistan than it does with my home state, because they share a language. Yeah, it's a wild thing for a lot of people outside of the subcontinent to realize. It's probably one of the most obvious things in the world if you're from there, right? Tamil Nadu has nothing to do with any of those regions, right? We're totally different culture. We have far more in common with Sri Lanka, right? As much as, Sri Lanka has committed a genocide against the Tamils, we have culturally far more in common with Sri Lanka, with the Sri Lankan government, than we do with Pakistan, right? In that sense, right? We are geographically closer in that sense, right? So, yeah, that's a weird thing that it's a weird thing for people outside the subcontinent to come to grips with, but that's like, yeah, it's very similar. The kind of bigotry that is faced in Pakistan, that people face in Pakistan, is almost the exact same kind of bigotry. In many ways it manifests the same kind of bigotry that Indians have to deal with. It's the same kind of bigotry overall.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay,
and also, sorry, I want to add one more point.
Oh no, feel free.
So there's a feedback loop, right? So whenever Hindus are attacked, or Hindus or Christians are attacked by fundamentalists in Pakistan, the Hindu nationalists in India weaponize that to say, oh, well, fuck Pakistan. Pakistan is this is why we need CAA, NRC, right? And when Hindu nationalists attack Muslims, well, the Muslim fundamentalists in Pakistan weaponize that and say, well, see, look at what India is doing. Look at these Hindu nationalists. You cannot trust Hindus. So it's a feedback loop. It's a horrific feedback loop. It's a bloody horrific feedback loop. I've talked to Pakistani progressives, and we've talked about this extensively. Like, this is just completely, North India and Pakistan especially, but India and Pakistan, they have quote unquote beef, but they're nearly they are parallel universe versions of each other. They're the same kind of country. They're post-colonial states that were in, wherein the borders were in large part brokered by an imperialist power, by the Brits. UK, no offense, Kavernacle. No offense, Kavernacle, but
yeah, my girlfriend's granddad, he fled the partition. I forgot where he was exactly, but he was a Hindu, lived in what would become Pakistan. Hindu, I don't know what they were, but they tried to kill him, and he was saved by a Persian family. took a flight to the UK and stayed, and like it's just no. To be honest, I identify my Irish background, so I don't take offense. But yeah,
don't identify as a Brit.
Well, if you don't mind,
it's
there's
such a fucking
another guy.
nightmare.
Okay, so there's another super chat that I want to address. There's a guy.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's see.
Yes.
Hey, wait one sec,
man,
because
can you
I need to
Riyadh
make
and
my dinner
Tamil Nadu?
quick. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna head now.
Yeah, feel free.
But one. So thanks so much for having me, guys. Had a lot of fun. And Arun, I learned so much. Like, actually, I thought I knew about Indian stuff because, like, when you were talking about God say, I was like, oh yeah, I know what he's talking about. Like, but then you just started going on. I'm like, holy shit, I don't know anything about Indian politics. So thanks so much. I really enjoyed.
No
Like,
problem.
I
It's just your
definitely
brain
need to learn
isn't like
more.
it isn't broken enough. That's the problem.
Yeah, like
Your brain isn't broken enough.
some of the stuff you were saying, like literally couldn't even believe it. But no, thanks so much, Matt, Mike, and Lance, and David, if he's listening from somewhere, and Rebecca, of course, although they're probably not. But yeah, thanks so much, guys. Be happy to come on again one day if you'd have me. I really enjoyed
Oh
Absolutely.
yes, we definitely got to do it again. Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
And just pray for the UK, but Labour gonna win the election, but then I don't know what comes next. But
Nigel Farage, apparently.
Yeah, Nigel Farage. Yeah, so
we're crossing our fingers for you all.
Yeah, have a good weekend, guys.
You too.
When's the election again? It's July 4th, right?
Yeah, Independence Day.
I take offense
Makes
as
total
an American.
sense. What a great day for them to. The day they took a massive L, they should. Yeah, of course.
Take another L. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, thanks so much, guys.
Maybe you should come on again. Maybe you should come on again around then. It's only in a few weeks, but maybe that'd be perfect.
Yeah,
afterwards
afterwards or just before, like you can probably see my schedule is absolutely unhinged. So I am up, and like I'm not going to bed or anything right now. So
all right, well, hit us up
when make my dinner.
Yeah, hit us up when you can.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye,
all right, guys. See ya.
All right, yeah, take care, Cav. All right, so I think it's from P-Man, right, Arun?
Yeah, Arun, can you talk about Periyar in Tamil Nadu? Okay, so Periyar, his real name is E.V. Ramaswamy. So Periyar is actually a guy that most people outside of the subcontinent, actually outside of India, don't know about. So Periyar is actually an anti-caste reformer, and he was the head of he was the head of a movement called the Self-Respect Movement, and it's part of the overall Dravidian movement in Tamil Nadu. And it was a strongly anti-caste movement that was, in the early 30s, 50s, it actually started around British colonialism during the British colonial times. And what in particular, one of the biggest issues in Tamil Nadu is if you look at the British administration and you look at the jobs and the job breakdown that, the population had. So the way it worked was that Brahmins, who basically had, they were 2% of the population, they held most of the administrative jobs, like 60, 70, 50 to 70% of the administrative jobs under the British. Now, the reason is the British specifically plopped them there, right? Because they were the most, the British, in a sense, reinforced the caste system in India, right? They made it worse. They did two things. They actually made it
like
worse
weaponize
overall.
it, you mean?
What?
Like weaponize it, you mean?
Not weaponize it. They reinforced it. So
okay.
What I mean by that is, so it was actually under the British that the caste census was made, right? So the first caste census was actually really codified under the British, right? And so that's when we kind of began to realize, like, okay, these are these castes and these are how many clerical jobs that they might have. And one of the things that we realized at that time was that Brahmins had a damn near monopoly on all the jobs. You have to understand, Tamil Nadu is what? They're 2%, like 2% of the population are Brahmins, Tamil Brahmins, and comprising of two castes, Ayers and Ayengars, right? But these guys held most of the bloody positions under the British administration. So Periyar and the framer of the Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So B.R. Ambedkar is doing a lot of his work in the north and in Maharashtra, which is his home state, and Madhya Pradesh there. So in Tamil Nadu, E.V. Ramaswamy, aka Periyar, comes along, and he starts basically agitating, and he starts basically doing, I guess, ground level praxis in a sense. In a lot of what Periyar did was actually just ground level practice. So he actually did this thing called he actually encouraged people to do live-in relationships, which in the 30s was fucking unheard of, right? Like they're called like, so there's a distinction between love marriages, which is what we in the West would call marriages, right? Because most people, it's the norm to just find a girlfriend, like fall in love and then get married later on at some point, or whatever you want, right? But in India, most marriages to this day are still arranged, right? And marriage is actually the main way caste is perpetuated in India. It is through caste endogamy, right? So Periyar comes along, and one of the things he basically says is like, well, fuck this shit. Let's do live-in relationships. Do live-in relationships. So feminism was actually a core portion of Periyar, of Periyar's movement. And to this day, he's transformed Tamil Nadu, the home state of Tamil Nadu, my home state, to a point where you cannot badmouth Periyar if you want any. Like that's how much of an impactful figure he is in the home state in Tamil Nadu, because you cannot badmouth him if you want to get elected. You are screwed if you badmouth him, if you shit talk him. That's how much of a profound impact he had. He basically managed to break the caste monopoly. He and many others, along with people like C.N. Anadure, and and other figures at the time that were part of the overall Dravidian movement. They managed to break the caste monopoly that the Brahmins had to a certain degree, not all of it, obviously, but they managed to basically advocate it in such a way where Brahmins didn't have the kind of monopoly in Tamil Nadu that they still have to a much greater degree in the north. In Tamil Nadu, if you go to like Madras High Court and stuff, you go to the High Court, is still going to be overwhelmingly Tamil Brahmins and whatnot. If you go to, if you go to national level politics, most of the people from Tamil Nadu in national level politics, they're going to be Brahmins, right? The biggest examples are Jay Shankar, the foreign minister Jay Shankar, finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman, former Rajya Sabha MP Subramaniam Swamy. They're all Tamil Brahmins. Most of the people that are in national level politics that are like in the BJP, that are like in like these sorts of parties, especially in the BJP per se, they're going to be Tamil Brahmins. A lot of these guys are going to be Brahmins, and a lot of people in the courts are Brahmins because of the institutional power. And for a long time, Brahmins are like, they were by societal norms, they were the only class of people. They were the only castes that were allowed to get an education, in a sense. They were the only ones that were allowed to read, and literacy at that time meant literacy in the Sanskrit language, right? So they were the only ones for a very long time that were able to they're the only ones that were able to actually get a decent education. That's why they monopolized it for so long. And Periyar comes along and he says, fuck you guys. Like, we oppose Brahmanism. We oppose all of this, caste hegemony that the Brahmins have imposed upon us. And he basically develops this anti-caste movement called the Dravidian self-respect movement, because it's about the other castes of Tamil Nadu basically gaining self-respect. That's the whole idea behind it. And so, Periyar is a pivotal figure that I don't think is really talked about enough. A lot of the social welfare policies that you're seeing in the Congress manifesto can ultimately be traced back to Periyar, in a sense. You can kind of trace it back to two people, Periyar and Anadure, C.N. Anadure, who was the guy that took these Dravidian politics into electoral politics. Because Periyar, basically, his ultimate, which is actually it's a stance that I believe, I personally believe, and I'm personally speaking I'm more sympathetic to the anarchist school of thought, but he basically said, I'm not going to wait for a political party. We're going to make change here on the ground. And he did actually cause a societal shift in Tamil Nadu just by staying in the grassroots. He's an incredibly pivotal figure that actually most people outside of most people outside of India has never heard of. Now, in northern India, he's shit talked because a lot of the people that are shit talking him in North India are Brahmins that didn't particularly take too kindly to his words, because he's directly challenging their hegemony, and the Tamil Brahmins are not particularly fond of this guy, and it's just like Brahmin tears, like womp womp, womp womp. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Good question, P-Man. That was great. Okay, I think this is for David. I'll go ahead and just read it. It's from B Clarity Carlton Martin. $2. You're all half my age. One love. Well, hey, thank you. Thank you for making us feel young. Another one for David here from Kowalski, $9.99. David out here like I'm too old to work out, a sign of a weak bloodline. Oh, yeah. Kowalski's throwing down. And you call yourself a mighty man of valor? Shakes my head. Get me your address. I'll send some HGH. It's not too late to get jacked. Damn, Kowalski's coming in hot. Okay, we've got Infinite Content with $5. Thank you, Infinite. Yo, there was a ruling in an MS federal court saying qualified immunity is unconstitutional, could change policing in the United States. I've not heard of this, but that is absolutely massive. I'll look into this. That's actually an encouraging piece of news from the U.S. court system. Unfriend the Atheist with $10 says, hello, humans. Hello, Unfriend the Atheist. I really appreciate that. We have, I think this is for either David or you, Matt.
I guess it's for David.
Okay, so it's from Benu in Space with $5 Canadian. Please talk about the Intercept's article on Biden's leaked plans for Israel. It seems to be true based on Biden's statements and the Saudi arrests. I personally cannot speak to this because I have not read that article. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with it. Yeah, so unfortunately,
I'm guessing David covered the.
Yeah, we cannot talk about this. But shout out to the Intercept article. Go check that out because I don't want to speak on something that I don't know about.
I'm just looking it up now, though, just for later.
Yeah, for sure. It seems important. We've also got Tokyo Hans. This is for you, Matt, I believe.
You skipped somebody.
Did I?
BC Clarity.
BC Clarity. Oh, this is the. This was for you. I thought it was for David Dole. Okay.
Oh, you read it?
Yeah. I thought this was for David Dole.
Oh, my bad. I heard you say David, so I tuned out.
Oh, okay. How dare you accuse me of skipping BC Clarity? I think this one is for you, though, right?
Yeah, Tokyo Hans with a super chat. As Cav mentioned, politics going back to the 80s and 90s, culture wars in the UK and US. They might as well bring back Crystal Pepsi. I miss it. Right. I mean, it would be one of the bonuses, right? I mean, there also Saturday morning cartoons of the 80s and 90s. I enjoyed tremendously. Bring those back.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess with the X-Men back on Disney Plus, I already got one of my faves. But bring back the Sonic show with Princess Sally.
That was good.
Give me the Pee-wee's Playhouse show on TV, so I don't have to go find it on whatever streaming platform it's on now. It always changes. What other? But you get the gist.
This is either for you or David, Matt.
It is for me. Winners and losers with a super chat. Hi, another 38 minutes of Tell the Truth Jank. My doc about TYT's union is out. Ooh, gets into the working conditions we faced and why we organized in secret. Oh, this is for someone who worked at TYT. Winners and losers. Huh?
Okay, interesting. I'll have to check that out.
Check that out.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, another one for you.
Not for me.
Oh, okay, so it's for David Dole. Tokyo Hans with 1,000 yen. Here's a little something to a fellow dad. If a three-year-old. Okay,
see, that's how you should have known it's not for me. I don't have any 3-year-olds. My kids are 5 and 8.
Okay. I tried picking him up the other day and threw out my back. Just turned 40, and it isn't starting out well.
See, I have to push back on this. I wish David was still here when I was able to do it. I thought we'd This episode really we went deep into when Cav was on into UK and then deep into India politics.
This is like the most substantive
I was
episode
like,
we've
I
had in
was
such
like,
a long time.
yes, this was a really so now I'll get to the silly stuff. I have to push back on David here and say that yeah, I'm feeling my age, I guess, physically, but I also, as long as you keep active like I do, and David
Damn.
apparently doesn't.
Shots fired.
You don't have to be in bad shape.
All right, so we have Nadia, new member. Thank you so much, Nadia. Appreciate that. Welcome. We have a couple from Michael Gregory for me. This is $5 Canadian. Apparently, the Japan Communist Party has had double-digit seats in Japan's parliament. Okay, interesting. Known as the National Diet. Another one. I have given a lot of super chats. Zach and Gavin's the Vanguard. Well, hey, that's money well spent because they're great kids. Those are my nephews, by the way. If people don't know, we're actually related.
What? Really?
I'm just kidding. No.
Oh my god!
I was like, I had no idea. Yeah.
I call basically anyone who's younger than me niece or nephew because I got a lot of nieces and nephews, so I'm Uncle Mike to a lot of people. I'm kind of dating myself by doing that, but you know. Another one from Michael Gregory. I'm a Leninist, Trotskyist, and a supporter of a group called Bolshevik Tendency. Well, good for you. Thank you for the super chat. This one's for you, Matt.
That is for me. Rolando Capayeja with a $10 super chat. Thank you. Matt, please accept this super chat as condolences to Park Rangers season ending. Defeat instinct at present, but the pain will heal over time. There is always next year. Yeah, it was disappointing because also I had done the math and I was 8 years old when the Rangers won their last Stanley Cup in 1994. And it's been exactly 30 years since. And my son this year is also 8 years old. So I thought if they won this year, what a nice little they won when I was 8, they won when my son's 8. I would have taken him to the parade like my dad took me to the parade when they won, but I guess we can't do that. It happens. At least NYCFC in MLS is all of a sudden on a 8 out of 9 game winning streak, and coming up after Messi's Inter Miami. So I still got them to pin my hopes and dreams on.
All right, thank you, Palgarith Sorceress Dragon, for becoming a member. We've got one from another one from Michael Gregory, $5. Thank you, Michael. I'm from and live in British Columbia. There are lots of Sikhs in Vancouver and Surrey in particular. Sikhs, excuse me, in Vancouver. Very cool.
Yeah, one of the other serfs who does YouTube videos with me, him and his family are Sikh.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
very
sure.
nice.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some tea on the Sri Lankan the Sri Lankan communist parties and the Indian communist parties, but that's like maybe for later. But it's not good. It's not good.
Don't put your hopes in me.
They've done some clownish shit in the past, or they sometimes continue to, especially the Sri Lankan communist parties. They're fucking clowns. They're all clowns, the highest order.
Like, I mean, so's the Canadian one. So
I mean, like, I don't use this term lightly, but the Sri Lankan communists are basically Nazis. Like,
oh, okay,
wow, that's not the tea I was expecting. Holy shit!
That's not the Canadian one.
Nationalists, like, especially Chad, Sri Lanka is a different country from India, just for the record. Because I've had people I've talked about Sri Lanka before. And I've had to basically and they've mentioned Gandhi, and I was like, wait, you realize Gandhi's India, right? Gandhi's a different country, right? So I've had to explain to them, like, no, Sri Lanka is a different country. But the Sri Lankan communists are pure and utter clowns of the highest order. They've been captured by they've been captured by the Sinhalese nationalists a long time ago, since the 80s actually.
Wow,
they've been captured for a long time, and they're it turned like later on in like the early 2000s, they ended up becoming the largest, they ended up becoming some of the largest cheerleaders for literal war crimes. So,
Well, that's not good.
Yeah.
So there's tea on like so I like, obviously I don't subject the communists in this region to nearly the same level of scrutiny that I do the liberals and even more so the conservatives, right? The Nazis of the region. Except for the Sri Lankan communists, because they basically are indistinguishable. All the parties in Sri Lanka are nationalist to some degree. They're all the same. But in India, in particular, the biggest problem with the communist parties is that they're controlled by the upper castes. So they've, especially if you go to Kerala, which is often paraded as like this bastion of like communism or whatever. One, Kerala is not. I mean, it is progressive in relation to the northern states. It is. It is progressive in relation to the northern states, and it's not to say. I want to be clear. This is not an anti-communist rant by any stretch of the measure. Like,
no, I don't think it is at all. You're just pointing out the fact like some people are socialists and some are national socialists, right?
No,
like, it's just because it's in the name, right? Like,
well, yeah, it's more like it's. Well, I mean, these are communist parties. Like, they're not like they don't call themselves like national socialists. They're communist parties, right? For the most part, but
you're saying they don't behave in any way.
Yeah,
like, the communism. They're
I'm criticizing them for being reactionary. I'm not criticizing them for being left. I'm criticizing them for being
that's what I mean. Yeah.
For Americans who don't know, it's like a MAGA communists here, but much worse.
Oh, it's not like MAGA communists. It's not even like that. It's just like because India is significantly more socially conservative, and this part of the world in general is significantly more socially conservative. A lot of the social conservativeness seeps in even into the Communist Party. Like caste is such an unavoidable reality in India. Like, so a great example of caste being unavoidable is that religions that are not originally from India, including Islam and Christianity, also practice caste in India. So even if you convert to Christianity or you convert to Islam, you're not immune from caste. You're still discriminated on the basis of your caste. So there are such a thing as Dalit Muslims, and there are such a thing as Dalit Christians. Right. So you cannot escape your caste, even if you convert. Right. Wow. So you are viewed as untouchable, even in that sense. So there are, for example, upper caste Muslims in India that will not allow Dalits into their mosque. Right. There are upper caste Christians that will not allow Dalit people into their church. Sikhism, Sikhi, is a religion that on paper outright denounces the existence of caste. In fact, the reason that people take the name Singh in Kaur, if you're a Sikh, is it's so that you don't keep your caste name, right?
Oh,
that's the reason everyone is named Singh in Kaur. You're not supposed to keep your caste name. The problem with that is even Sikhs practice caste, and that is a religion that ostensibly outright says no caste. You should not be practicing caste. Everyone's equal, right? That is a religion that ostensibly says, caste is bad, but you still have the existence of Dalit Sikhs, right? That's a thing, right? So caste is such a pervasive problem in India that it affects even the communist parties, right? So the communist Party to this day is still run by a Brahmin, right? It wasn't until I think last year or 2 years ago that a person from a Dalit caste, a very oppressed caste, made it into the Politburo, or made it into, I think it was the Politburo, right? It was only recently that they made it into the Politburo, because at the cadre level, there is caste discrimination. There's also a cadre level example of basically people will often in a line, there's like a range of Dalit candidates that can rise up the ranks to become, be posted in various positions in the Communist Party, right? But oftentimes there's a practice in the Communist Party where they pick the most incompetent of the people from the marginalized caste, and they take that as the fall guy. And once that guy inevitably fucks up, they're like, oh, see, this is why you can't, you can't hire people you can't bring people, you can't promote people from this bunch, from this caste or whatever. So that's a common like ground level thing. It's not well reported on, But so what take what I said about this practice with a huge grain of salt. This is me, saying what I've heard from the grapevines, from my Malayali friends, right? This is a practice that has happened before. So caste is such a pervasive problem in India that even the Communist Party is run by the upper castes, right? There's very few parties, aside from the Ambedkarite parties, that are run by Dalits that directly attack, that whose main thing is to attack caste in India, right? Unless it's those parties, every party in India has a problem with caste. Even the guy that runs my home, the party that runs my home state, the DMK, right? Chief Minister, the leader of my state, by the way, is named Stalin. Like his name is Stalin, MK Stalin. His party are basically social democrats, liberals, capitalists, right? They recently tried to pass a law that would extend the working day to like 12 hours instead of 8. They used to be progressive at some point.
Yeah.
Very stupid.
Not as subtle at all.
By the way, that's the same policy that BJP, has done. So for the record, it took liberals and communists to team up and outflank them and say, like, what the fuck are you doing? But even the DMK has problems with caste, and their DMK is actually their party that more directly attacks, caste, that more directly attacks Brahminical hegemony, because there's a huge problem with dominant castes in Tamil Nadu. No, not Brahmins per se, but the landed dominant caste of Tamil Nadu basically having a huge presence in DMK as well. There's a huge problem there too. So that's how pervasive caste is. Even the communist parties aren't safe from it. Even progressive movements are not safe from this, right? So you'll have communist, thinkers and speakers and whatnot, and they're all Brahmins, right? West Bengal has the exact same problem, right? West Bengal is the other main state that has been run by the communists, the CPIM in particular, right? They have the exact same problem. They have for a long time, the CPIM was run by, landowning castes and Brahmins for a very long time. It's always been this way. So that's basically the T of the communist parties in India. It's like they're effectively captured by the upper castes, right? In India, CPIM is even like they don't have any traction whatsoever, even though they're headed by a Dalit person. CPIM has no traction whatsoever. CPI has no traction. CPIM is they're the most popular party, the Communist Party in India, and probably in the subcontinent actually. But they're run by dominant castes, and they're run by upper castes. And so when you bring up caste issues, they're like, shh. For example, just recently in Kerala, the Devaswam cultural minister of Kerala, faced caste discrimination in a temple, right? It was earlier this year, or it was like earlier last year. And the Kerala government, which is run by communists, they're like, oh no, our Devaswam minister got, discriminated by his caste. He's a Dalit dude. He got discriminated by his caste. He's like, oh no, what do you do? And then guess what the communists did? They did fuck all about it. They did nothing about it. So it is so pervasive. Like, it is so incredibly pervasive in India. That's how. Was Jayalalitha any good? Fuck no. The answer is next super chat. Was Jayalalitha any good? Aside from some of her welfare schemes, fuck no. No, she had a crazy cult of personality, and she had an incredibly oppressive environment in Tamil Nadu. Fuck no, she wasn't. She was an awful chief minister. She's literally one of the worst, if not worst, chief ministers of Tamil Nadu. Okay, there's a dude who Modi's cult of personality is already bad, right? But Jayalalitha Jayalalitha is a former chief minister of my home state, right? She died I think several years ago or something like that. And the thing with Jayalalitha is that she had such a crazy cult of personality. There was a dude, this got pressed. There's a dude who just to simp super hard for her, he had himself nailed to a cross. There's a karate teacher. Unironically, that wanted to simp so hard for her. He was like, I love you, Jayalalitha. I love you so much. I love you. You are my favorite. You are my favorite, chief minister. You are the greatest. And her nickname in Tamil Nadu that we call her, well, I don't call her that, but people that her supporters call her is Amma, which means mom. They call her mother, unironically. They call her mom, right? That's her nickname. Her nickname is mom, right? So they're like, Amma, I love you. Mom, I love you. And then they literally, this karate teacher fucking nails himself to a cross and he passes out from the blood loss.
I mean, the game's the game,
Honestly, respect to him.
No. And the funny thing about the entire thing is Jayalalitha got caught wind of that. And then she wrote a letter to the guy saying, you are incredibly creepy, sir. Please never do this ever again. The dude got a straight letter from the chief minister herself saying, yo, you're simping a bit too hard. Please.
Yeah, I would say
too creepy.
Yeah.
If there's a bar, that's too far.
He crossed so many lines.
Oh, Jesus for you, baby! No, don't do this.
Crazy.
Don't do this shit.
Oh my god!
Like I said, our politics are next level crazy. Like it's just is like our movies are crazy. Our politics are crazy. Our news is crazy.
Goddamn.
It's entertaining, though. I guess there's one.
It's deeply entertaining. Like that's the one saving grace about Indian news. Like I like, it's just deeply entertaining.
Okay, I think we're here, and I want to say that this one is for.
Also,
Matt.
I think I'm gonna drop, guys. It was great. It was great to be here. I appreciate you guys for having me. Thank you so much.
Pleasure having you on.
So much.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it was great having you.
Any episode where I can sit back and learn. A, I love it because I'm learning, and B, I love it because I'm not doing any work.
Binder just likes unpaid labor. That's what you're into.
Yeah. I'm here as a viewer almost. This episode.
And the viewers are clearly love it because we never have 1,100 people still watching past like 8 o'clock. So really appreciate you.
If you guys want to learn just more brain rot and you also want to partake in just perpetual madness, you should follow me. Like
absolutely.
If you want to, if you want to just like partake yourself and you want to slowly lose your mind over a protracted long. Oh yeah, Hansi, I already read your super chat a long time ago. That's wild. But yes, I cover South Asian politics over at twitch.tv/ArunAnnow. I'll be live. I think I'll definitely be live this weekend. That's when I stream. I stream weekend mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I usually go for however long. Usually weekdays, I haven't streamed all that much, but the previous week I started doing video games a little bit. Paper Mario just released, so I'm playing that.
Hell yeah.
And on top of that, this Tuesday, Monday was the Indian election, so I had to cover that. And there's clips of me. Actually, if you want, I can send you like an example of like what the Indian news coverage was like just to give you an idea of like what I was like staring at for like 7 hours. Because it's also pure. This is also just pure insane. It's just also pure insanity. Let's see if I can't find it. Here we go. Let me see. Share. I think it's this. This is also pure insanity. Wait, why is this muted? Yeah, this is the election coverage, just for the record. This is me reacting to the.
Do you have control, Mike? I don't know. I don't have.
Yeah, I could bring it in. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, this is me on Twitch, like this is me at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, covering the elections.
जो उम्मीदवार राम जी हैं वो जीत गए और वो आए थे आरएलपी से हरीश चौधरी लेके आए थे
दिलचस्प है ये विनोद जी कि हमने बाड़मेर में रविंद्र सिंह बाटी की रैलियों में जो जबरदस्त जन सैलाब देखा उसके बावजूद वो लेकिन हम चर्चा करते थे मैं एक सेकंड मेरा इसी सीट पर आऊंगी रायबरेली से राहुल गांधी और अब काशी से प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी की लीड हो गई है 87,000 वोटों की नृपेंद्र मिश्रा के बेटे जो कि प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी थे प्रधानमंत्री के, उनके बेटे आगे दिख रहे हैं। रायबरेली से राहुल गांधी
जो उम्मीदवार राम जी हैं,
You know what they were doing? You were getting sleepy, and that alarm woke you up because that was very sharp.
Yeah, I was. That literally was. Yeah, I was like getting sleepy, and I was like, "What the fuck, bro? What are you people doing?" Like that's how Indian news. That's normally how that looks. By the way, if it looks like
I
it's
love
just
it.
plot machines, and it looks like it's too much information overload, like
it was made for my ADHD. I'm like, oh, there's so much to
Yeah,
concentrate
right.
on. There's so much going on all over the place.
It's
like
colorful.
yeah,
and
that's
pretty.
how it is. That's how it always is. Like if you want actual like sane stuff, you have to go independent. Like if you want quiet like stuff that you would see like just normal election coverage, you'd actually have to go independent. Indian news is like
That's
they
so
do
weird.
this all the time.
I love it in a way, but like it's got to be exhausting at some point. But it is great.
Don't
to
do
see.
it at like 3 in the morning. And like don't do it at 3 in the morning. It's too much. But anyways, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so
And,
much.
yeah, if you want to ever have me back and just shoot the shit, give me brain rot,
Absolutely.
cover something. Yeah,
hell yeah,
have me on.
For
Thank you so
sure.
much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Have a great night.
All
Yeah, it
right. Yeah. We had some great.
It was
great guests
quite
today.
the episode today. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. I think this is you, Matt, or David.
It is not for me.
Alrighty. So, to David Dole, CD $5. Have any of you discussed what's going on with Marilyn Mosby? As progressives, we need your platforms to highlight her and urge a Biden pardon. The name sounds familiar. I don't know enough to speak on it, though, but I'll look into that because if it's something that is urgent, which seems like it is, then yeah, I'll
This is the story I was thinking of. So it's about a former Baltimore City prosecutor who achieved a national profile for charging police officers in a black man's death and was spared prison time and her sentence Thursday for perjury and mortgage fraud. This is basically, yeah. I don't know if we talked about it like maybe 4 weeks ago briefly, just for a little teeny bit, but I didn't know there was new developments.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. That sounds really interesting. Thank you for the recommendation, CD. I have one from Rochelle Dingra, $4.99. Thank you so much. Watch the documentary Final Solution. It's about what happened in Gujarat. It's long, but worth the watch, and maybe uploaded to YouTube. Okay, yeah, that's. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm sure a lot of people now want to know more. So yeah, nice to know what is good and what's not. Okay, so we've got one from Cosmere Dragon here, either for David or Matt.
This is for me. Cosmere Dragon with a $10 super chat. As a Florida boy visiting NYC for the first time, do you have any suggestions on things I should see other than the obvious tourist destinations? Interesting. I
would say Sleep No More, but it just closed down. I love that. It sucks. I can't recommend that.
Yeah, it would depend. For me nowadays, it's like, I mean, food recommendations. I give you food recommendations in terms of like things to see and do. Like, yeah, hit up the touristy stuff, but then for me, it's like a specific events that happen. You know what I mean? So, you want to check out the usual tourist things. You want to check out the Empire State Building, Statue of Liberty, blah, 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 blah.
If you want something fun and free, the gardens that are built on those railways are really cool in the meatpacking district. Those are a really fun tourist thing to see. That's not going to cost you any money, unlike a lot of other things in New York. Oh, also the speakeasies. There's this place that sells like these unreal hot dogs, and then they've got a phone booth inside the place, and you talk on the phone, and then you're like swordfish, and then they let you into a secret speakeasy back there where they have like this off menu, and that's also really cool. You've probably seen it on
it's probably better to ask someone who recently came to NYC. Other than me, because I don't even know what stands out here anymore. Like also, where are you going in NY? I'm guessing you're going to Manhattan, right? If you planning on going to the outer boroughs, let me know. But yeah, I mean, catch a Yankees or Mets game while you're here. Food
Try to get in
wise,
the audience of Total Request Live. I hear that's a hoot. So
Oh yeah, that was a big thing back. If you're also traveling in a time machine, be sure to check out.
You're welcome.
You can go see John Oliver. Go watch John Oliver. It's free.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Dave from Jamaica is in the chat telling me to tell him about the Malaysian chicken joint, but that's in Flushing, Queens. When Dave from Jamaica came for a visit, I told him to meet me in Flushing, Queens, and I showed him a good spot. But I mean,
if you want jerk chicken, go to Flatbush. Like I don't even need to recommend the specific place. It's like every block there's like 4 or 5 incredible places. Flatbush has a lot of good food.
Right. It's yeah. Check out the High Line. That's something to do. I actually have not been, but I hear it's.
I mean, you live there, so you can go there anytime. So there's not like this urgency to see.
Yeah.
You know,
that's like a new. That's like a. See, I've done all the touristy things when people have come to visit.
Yeah.
You know, the Empire State Building. I can't tell you to go check out the world. You know, the Twin Towers. You can check out the World Trade Center, but I can't tell you to go see the Twin Towers. But there is there is the World Trade Center. I haven't been actually to you know, the
Freedom Towers.
I haven't been to the Freedom Towers. I haven't been to
cool.
that area at all. I don't want to go there. I mean, I feel like I need to eventually, but I'd rather not. Seems depressing.
Yeah. We've got another one for you, Matt. Or for David.
EO Matt, I think it's for me, right? It is not for me, no, but I'll read it. I already started reading it. EO man's code 84 with a $10 super chat for David Dole, so I won't be saying thank you, but good job. Kavernacle and Katie Montgomery, loving the Brit representation and happy to now add ArunAnnow to my ArunAnnow, to my roster. Looking to leave the US and move to either Canada or Scotland next year. Any advice? Well, I can't give you advice on that one, and I'm sure David Dole could just give you the advice about Canada.
I can try and facilitate it. I don't know anything about Scotland, but the only shitty I'd recommend coming to Canada. The only shitty thing is Canada's got worse immigration laws than the US does, so you'll learn pretty quickly about how intense they are.
You're gonna have to come illegally to Canada.
Yeah, and how fucked up they are. Yeah, exactly. I can't recommend that, but you know, life finds a way.
Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. Canada, as a potential future citizen / refugee, I would never disrespect the laws in Canada. Okay. T King with $2. This you, Matt?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
T King with the super chat. Enjoy the multiple guests. Please do more again. I thought both guests were great. I actually think we should have done. I didn't book the guests. I think we should have done separate shows for each of them. They both.
We'll bring them back individually, though, for sure.
Yeah. So I actually would. I disagree. I think we should have one guest on an episode. I think it's too much when we do two. Not hitting. This was a great episode. I just feel like we could have got deeper on either Kavernacle or Arun, and we they split their time. But we'll have them both on again for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, if we were doing a panel where it was a specific topic we're all talking about, we could have multiple guests on. But I think if we're going to bring on two guests that have two completely separate things to talk about, they should each be their own episode.
Both are very timely because of the elections. But yeah, I agree. I think that we'll split it up if it's really big topics like that. The next one here is from 180K Chan, $5. Thank you.
I'm just going to take my leave before y'all keep going because I got to take Chico out. He's looking at the door. I love you both. I'll see you next Thursday.
All right, take care, man.
Right, yeah, see you next Thursday.
All right. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and it seems politicians curbside advertising, not stating what party they're affiliated with. Yeah, that's interesting to me. They probably get a sense that both parties are not popular and they're trying to not turn off people who see a particular label. So, yeah, I'm curious to know how that works for them. I do have another one. This is for Boggled Connect. It's just $1, no message. There's a follow-up. Okay. $10. Thank you, Boggled Connect. Oops, let's try that again. Search up Rob Snyder, Regina. You'll love the results, Mike. Best. Let me do that really quick.
Rob Schneider, Regina.
Okay, so I'm getting Rob Schneider's set at Regina fundraiser leads to apology by organization. Oh, Rob Schneider booed, pulled off stage during charity. It keeps happening to him. My God. That's funny. I'll have to look into that further. Okay. We've got another one here.
Guamu with a super chat. I think that's 100 Mexican pesos. Thank you, Guamu. The Kavernacle showing Leftist Mafia that there's no reason to be afraid of close-ups. He does have a close-up camera setup. If I had it set up in the with the camera position, it probably would look better. I don't like just the zoom that StreamYard does when it's like this. That's too much. You would have to set up the physical camera in the right angle if you're going that close. Like he had it set up at an angle. I don't need the close up straight on like this.
It's like it's zooming in way more than the camera itself would too when we do that.
Right,
so it just is very.
So I'm not anti close ups. I'm anti how StreamYard zooms into this angle.
So we have one from Taco Facefart, $2. What politician has the nicest feed? I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen any of their feeds, but I could tell you who has the grossest feed, and that'd probably be John Fetterman. Easy question there. In terms of who has the best feed, I don't know. It's something that I've never thought about literally until this very moment.
I'm sorry, but I'm not even gonna.
Yeah, I'm not a foot guy, so I couldn't tell you. We do have no message here from Beautiful Machines.
Oh, Beautiful Machines. That's for me. Thank you so much. Is that $7.99 Australian? Wow.
Seems like it.
I think it is.
We've got Andrew S. with $5. Thank you, Andrew. Happy Pride. Parasocial question for the guests. What types of media are you enjoying lately? So for me, I honestly have not really been watching as much political commentary, but when I do watch it, it's usually Kyle or David. But I watch a variety of things, some gaming YouTubers, Spawnwave. I watch some Lego YouTubers, Brixie, Emmasaurus. I watch a variety.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thanks for the shout out.
Well, hey, that wasn't a diss.
Yeah, I don't watch all that much political commentary, but when I do, it's definitely not Matt Binder.
No, I absolutely do tune into you when I do catch you live. I did tune into you when you had a dude doing a Trump impression that was funny as hell because it sounded exactly like Trump, but like a prepubescent Trump, and it was very entertaining.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
If I catch you live, I absolutely tune in. Okay. How much Humanist Report videos have you watched lately? Huh? Oh,
I don't even pretend to watch you. So.
That's fair.
No, I do. Usually it's whatever pops up when I log on to YouTube.
That's kind of how it is. Yeah.
I don't really go to. I'm subscribed to your channel, so I get your stuff. And if something pops up and I'm like, ooh, I want to know about this, I do watch.
Yeah. It's the same way for me. Like if I'm just queuing up, I have YouTube Premium, so I have like a queue. I just find a bunch of things, add it to my queue, and cycle it. It's whatever's in my like subscription feed or something like that. Or if somebody's live, I'll just click that. So it's just if I happen to be, listening or watching at the time. It just depends.
Look, in the chat right now, Schoolie Mom says, I catch Binder on Majority Report. Never remember he has his own channel. Great. That's awesome. Thank you. No, I do appreciate you watching me no matter what, wherever it may be. But I do have my own channel. It is, I will be honest, the reason the channel is not that big, I've grown this channel strictly via live streams, which is not the usual way to grow a channel.
Which is impressive to grow that much through live streams, though, honestly. Because that's tough.
I appreciate that.
I get no growth through live streams, so...
I do need to, and I am gonna do it. I'm getting set up. I'm actually configuring some stuff so it'd be easier for me to do quick videos and just like get them up.
Yeah, for me, I don't watch live streams just in general as much, but I always watch clips. I'm never able to catch Majority Report live or when you're on Majority Report. But if there's a clip, then that's how I end up seeing it. So yeah, it depends on how it's available, really. Okay, so we've got Wanda here. I think this is for you.
Wanda M, thank you so much, Wanda. This was an amazingly international masterclass. Well done, Leftist Mafia and guests. I mean, it was all the guests this episode. Like, really,
we did nothing.
We didn't even ask that many questions. I think like each of us asked one question. Like they just knew, and then they took like questions from the you guys. You guys asked more questions than us. You guys, like this was our guests really took the reins, especially New. He really shined. I didn't know a lot of this stuff. It's not like with Indian politics, I'm completely like I just know that Modi bad.
Yeah, basically same. Yeah, it's very complicated. So it was really nice to like get that information from him and kind of like break us away from our American perception. Because for me, like a lot of the way that I guess rationalize politics of other countries is like, how does it compare to the United States, right? That's just like I have a background in comparative politics, so that's always what I do. Like, okay, how does this guy compare to Trump? How does this party compare to Democrats versus Republicans? So it's nice to kind of like break away from that and really draw these distinctions and explain like how dangerous Modi really is. So yeah, I really thought that was super insightful.
Yeah.
We've got one super sticker here. I don't see it. So
thank you, Looney Tunes 9000. That one's for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Got the 100% super sticker.
Oh, nice. Nice. And Tokyo Han sends me 1,000 yen. Thank you, Tokyo Hans. Just want to throw some love over to my favorite gay streamer in Pride Month. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. JCass, $2. Thank you. Tried Tres Leches cake yet? I have not. It's
amazing. It's awesome. It's wonderful.
I really need to.
The best. It is my favorite cake. It's really good. It's my favorite. Might be my favorite. It's up there. One of my favorite desserts. It's hard as an Italian. It's hard for me to discount the cannoli, or So I had to stop myself before I said it was my favorite, but it's definitely up there. Probably. I'm not saying cannoli is my favorite either. It's just they're both up there.
Mm-hmm. No, cannolis are good too. Yeah, I'll have to try. You know what? If I do try it, I'll get back to you. There is a new place that opened.
There's a number of different types of tres leches, from what I understand. Based on, I live in Queens. Go to Jackson Heights. That's where you get a good tres leches. But there's each, depending on where they're from, the concept of the cake is the same, but the style is different depending on where the background of the restaurant. The best one I've ever had, it was from a Colombian restaurant.
Okay. Yeah, as soon as I can, I'll try it. I feel like I'll have a chance to try it soon.
Hold on, someone in the chat just said cannoli are Sicilian, not Italian. It's the same thing. What are you talking about?
Okay, I think this is for you.
Tunbosin with a super chat. When your governor is so finicky, they dumpster a 20-year transit plan made to gridlock traffic and emissions. Hochul is a muppet and duck Eric Adams. We talked about it a little bit on the Majority Report today. This is insane, and I feel like it's too late to sort of go into this now. Maybe we'll talk. This is going to be an ongoing issue, so maybe we'll dive deeper into it next week. But basically, there was. Are you familiar with what happened here, Mike?
No.
Okay, so New York City was finally about to roll out the first in the nation congestion pricing in New York City at the end of this month. Basically, if you were to enter via car, if you were driving to Manhattan below 60th Street, you would be charged a $15 fee, like a toll. And this was going to be used to fund MTA work on public transit. Studies showed it was going to be great for New Yorkers, for their health, for the environment, for public space. And this was ready to happen. And then all of a sudden, Kathy Hochul comes out yesterday and says that she's scrapping it. It's postponed indefinitely.
Oh,
just
wow.
like that. It's unclear exactly why. Their reasoning is it's going to hurt small business.
It's an excuse they use for literally everything.
Tourism isn't back to where it should be due to COVID. What about the working class who drive into the city? There's no working class that drives into Manhattan that isn't like doing it for their job. And then that means their employer will pay for the fucking toll. I mean, no one drives into Manhattan for work during the weekdays at the very least. And even Saturday and Sunday, they don't really. Every worker takes public transit, especially in Manhattan. I have a car in Queens because I'm far out in the outer borough here. I'm in Eastern Queens, which is like close to Long Island. And I have a car to get around here. I maybe drive to Manhattan because a family member lives there. Maybe 6 to 10 times a year. And it's only on Sundays because there is parking on Sundays around that family member, because it's no parking the rest of the days of the week. That is the only time I ever have driven into Manhattan. So the idea that like people are regularly driving them in Manhattan is just ludicrous. Unless it's a business, which that's where the revenue is going to come from. It's totally unclear why she did this. It's a cowardice, worried about a certain voter demographics, maybe. I have no idea. Apparently, there's speculation that Hakeem Jeffries was working in the background to get her to do this. It has been her last-minute move, which isn't entirely clear if she even has the legal authority to do this. There's gonna be legal challenges, but everyone I've seen, myself included, but everyone I've seen, from local politicians to New Yorkers, are against this move from her. The only people I ever saw against it are people from New Jersey and Long Island, really. Staten Islanders too. But really like people who don't live in like New York City proper.
That I'll have to look into this because that sounds really fucked up. Was it was it passed through a bill and she just like axed it?
Oh, this has been planned for decades. There's been numerous studies. It passed like all the different like legislative like city counts, all the stuff that needed to pass. Numerous studies, all the agencies that the boards that needed to give the approval, they all gave it. The MTA had approved it. This was going to roll out.
Just years of work just gone.
At the end of the month.
Wow.
There's like stacks of studies. She 2 weeks ago was talking about the how brave it is that this is going to be done.
Oh my god.
This is so last minute that even she flip-flopped in a span of just a few weeks. It is the most unbelievable thing I have ever seen. In terms of like I just can't even. I don't even understand.
That's
like,
so weird. Yeah,
like
that's an abrupt shit.
It was so last minute that someone had posted that they received an email from EasyPass after she made the announcement, with an update about what to expect as a commuter when this rolls into when congestion pricing rolls into effect on June 30th. Like, the agencies that were planning it didn't even get advanced warning from her, so that they weren't even able to stop like their email updates to their to their customers.
That's wild to me. Jesus. New York Democrats, man.
I'm telling, like, people really think like, oh, you live in New York, progressive. No, we really have some
so
of the worst,
bad.
Really, they are the most seriously the some of the worst Democrats in the country.
Yeah. Okay, so Wanda with $1.99. Thank you, Wanda. Congrats on your new book. I ordered it today. That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Wanda. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it if you get a chance to read it. Thank you so much. Still Alive with $5. Thank you. A non-serious question for y'all. Has anyone of you played the original Legend of Zelda on NES Famicom? Gamers Unite? Of course I did. I played it when I was really young. I didn't get very far though. I've never like beaten it or anything, but yeah, I played it for sure. This
Jay
one
Cash,
for
the
you.
super chat. Shout out to Kav. Great work, bloke.
Zia Spots with $5. Thank you so much. It's so weird for the last half to not just be jokes, but I'm here for it. Yeah, sometimes we can be, very loud and giggle throughout the episode. Other times we can be serious. You know, we have many suits. So we got that one. And then we've got one from
Looney Tunes 9000 with a super chat. Great guests. Love the Cav. And I hear Mike is going on the letter hack to discuss his book at the end of the month. Oh, are you?
Yeah, Letterhack reached out. So yeah, I'll be teaming up with him in the near future.
Very nice. Hansi with a super chat. Arun, I'm Ryan Khan's distant nephew, no lie. What? Really? Oh, I think Arun read this on the
That's interesting. If they're not lying. We got another one here that was for Arun. Thoughts on Dev Patel's Monkey
Kate
Man.
Hartley says, Arun, thoughts on Dev Patel's Monkey Man?
I've heard it was amazing.
I haven't seen it. I heard it was good though.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that. Kowalski with $9.99. Thank you, Kowalski. A little disappointed that Arun did not cover more of India's agricultural issues, like the dying glaciers. The North bread is at risk. What's India's climate change position? Is it regional?
We'll have to get him back here so you could ask.
Yeah.
JHL FSC with a $10 super chat. We can have a G side or we can have a G side plus ethnic cleansing by a theocracy in the U.S. Why do some people think it'll be fascism instead of democracy that'll give the left a second bite at the apple? I don't think that.
Yeah, I don't think people necessarily think that. I think that they're just really disillusioned right now, and they're trying to find some way to like make their voices heard. Because I haven't seen many lefties be like, "Oh, it'll be better under Trump." Like, there's accelerationists, but I don't think that's a lot of people.
I haven't felt this disillusioned and disengaged since like I don't know, maybe like 2004. Honestly.
Yeah,
like there's like we are moving backwards on a number of issues that we progressed on in the past decade. There is literally nothing to look forward to. I hate to be doomer here, but like, you know, I'm not saying everything was hunky dory over the past decade, but like where we were losing on one issue, there was a completely separate issue that was on the up, like that was on the rise, like going in our way. I don't see that right now. There's nothing. It's over. Give up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. It's just really, it's a very discouraging time in politics where everything's kind of going to shit. I'm hoping it turns around, but you know, I'll hope in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up faster. Okay. Next one here. This one's for you, I think.
No, it's not.
Oh, so it's a David Doe one. Okay, Randall Smith.
Oh, wait, it is for me. I'm sorry. I missed it. I'm sorry. Randall Smith, the super chat. India is a good place with bad leaders like the USA. Listen, all of these places are you know, broadly good places. Like you can't blame the people and for what's going on in you know, a country due to their government.
Yeah, you can never ever define a state by its government because I mean, there's really not very many good governments in the world, if any.
Right, like there's no such thing as like a bad place due to like the region and its geography and its like broader culture. Mm-hmm. There's always something that they're contributing. You know.
Yeah, no, that's a great sentiment though, Randall.
JHL says except Israel. I mean, listen, there are good people there. I mean, there's
Yeah, of course.
Again, the same thing does go for Israel. But I get it. But yeah, I mean,
they're in there.
There are people there who are, you know, who don't agree with what's going on.
They're in their America post 9/11 phase. So they're, you don't want to look at public opinion polls right now, just like you didn't want to look at American public opinion polls back then. Omega Shenron Dragon with $5. Thank you, Omega. Hi all, our guests today are criminally underrated. Agree. So much international politics, so much history. Also, have you reached Fishman Island yet, Mike? Literally, the last episode, they just reached Fishman Island. Of course, referring to One Piece for those who don't know. So I'm very excited to see where it goes, because the this new era in One Piece has been incredible.
Kuya Damon with a $10 super chat. Happy Pride from a Gaysian. Caught a bit of your coverage of your Epoch Times yesterday. They got weird billboards here in California saying #1 trusted news and a random guy's pic with no name underneath. Wait, I think I've seen this. They're
this. Very dystopian looking and just very bizarre.
Hold on.
I've seen them on Reddit. Is that not so insane?
Oh, I gotta pull this up. It is really funny, actually. How do I even here? I'll just send it to you, Mike, and you
go
pull
ahead.
it up. It is very random.
This is the one that I saw on Reddit.
There's no context for who this guy is. He's not very descriptive in any way. Like, it's just very
so weird. Like, what's going on here?
Who is this guy?
He's the most
I've seen this
trusted
guy
face in
before. He's
news.
like one of their hosts or whatever. But obviously, there's no there's nothing.
Yeah, it's very strange.
The guy's name is Joshua Phillip.
Oh, okay. They might want to at least put his name under it if they
Senior investigative reporter.
Investigative reporter.
So,
okay.
For anyone who doesn't know, I did a episode earlier this week on the Epic Times chief financial officer being arrested for running a large money laundering scheme where he used crypto and stolen funds on prepaid debit cards to give Epic Times over or around $67 million.
Brazen as fuck. Got another one for you.
This is for me. Natchiket with a super chat. Felt like meeting your school teacher outside of school. Funny seeing India coverage. Thanks for having Arun on. 5 more years of fascism. Here we go. Oh no, we'll be covering India a lot more. I get the sentiment. That's a pretty good analogy, actually. I just didn't really know anyone who knew it as who invited Arun on. Was it you or was it Lance?
It was Lance. Yeah.
I didn't know of anyone who had such deep knowledge from this perspective, from our ideological perspective, and it was great.
Yeah, it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because there's so I had a very surface level understanding of Indian politics. So it's really nice to be able to pick his brain. Because there's a lot going on, and him having knowledge in other countries as well is also really, really awesome. Got a super sticker for you.
Oh no! Wait, on my AirPods just died. Hold on. Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I hear you through one of them now. Okay, we could keep going. We could do it.
You got to charge one.
Yeah, it happens.
I think the super sticker is for you.
Is it? It is. It is not. It's not for me.
Oh, okay. Well, it's for David Dole then. I can't see it, but thank you for the super sticker regardless. Also, we've got one for Lance from Tokyo Han. Some money for my favorite buy streamer in celebration of Pride Month. We'll let him know. Thank you. And then he also missed this from Alderman Gomez. 5 gifted memberships. Lots of love to Lance. This one is for me, Anonymous Bastard Society, $5. Thank you. Will you guys bring Dead Domain on the show? I would love to bring on Dead Domain. I'll have to reach out. We're both mutuals on Twitter. I should see if she wants to come on for Pride. Because we've got, this is just, the beginning of the month. That'd be awesome to bring her on. I would love to talk to Dead Domain. Still alive with $5. Is Lance aware that he resembles a skinnier version of Biff from Back to the Future? Well, to me anyways. Hello, McFly. I don't know. I don't see Biff. I just see young Brendan Fraser with Lance. That's all I can see. If you Google,
I see young Brendan Fraser. I don't see Biff.
Yeah, if you Google 90s Brendan Fraser, I mean, and you put a picture of Lance next to him, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
They look very similar, yes.
Yeah, you could fool a lot of people. Lizzie Bennett with $5 about jerk chicken in Flatbush. Check out Little Caribbean area of Flatbush. How I know this? My husband's Caribbean. Highly recommend. Okay, well, there you go. So whoever sent that earlier, there you go. Anupam with $9.99. Thank you. How has the Nehru Gandhi family been able to stay in control of ink for so many years? Does that have something to do with their current unpopularity? This is definitely something that's above my pay grade.
Really quick. Unfortunately, you missed Arun. He would be able to answer that for you.
Yeah.
I can't even wing it, honestly. There's nothing I could I mean, I could use my improv my improv yes and knowledge to just completely give you an answer that will be totally made up and inaccurate, but I don't think that's what you want.
Yeah, I'm sorry that we missed this, Anupam. Appreciate the super chat though. If we bring back on Arun in the near future, you'll have to type that in the chat. But you already paid $10, so just remind us, hey, I sent in the super chat, but you didn't get to see it. So that way we can let him answer that question though. This one's for you.
Guamu with a super chat. Matt, I'll man up and try to call you next show. I still have to vent about the Mexican election. Right, please do.
Oh yeah, that'll be interesting. Another one for you.
T-Types with the super chat. I saw a seis leches cake advertised at a local business last week. Ooh, double the leches.
Okay.
Bay Photo with a $10 super chat. The guy that challenged Newsom in the recall election a couple years ago, Larry Elder, has an Epic Times show. Also, California.
Does he really?
Yeah, he does, and they paid him a huge amount of money, millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, California gets plastered with Shen Yun billboards every fall. We call fall Shen Yun season. Yes, we usually see it around that time too, end of summer or early fall. Yeah. Shen Yun. That's all I have in my head. That the very deep voice the guy goes into when he says the name, and it's always he says it with that same inflection. Shen Yun.
Interesting. Well, that's it.
You can't be oh, I'm going to see Shen Yun. No. It's, oh, I'm going to see Shen Yun.
That's good marketing right there.
It's attached to Falun Gong, the Epic Times cult. Well, they're not the Epic Times cult, the cult that runs Epic Times.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's all one big connected group here.
What do you say we raid Ravana?
Oh, really quick, someone in the chat. It was just reported that Alex Jones is liquidating his assets to pay the Sandy Hook families.
Nice.
So is Infowars dead? Is it done? I'm not saying Alex Jones is done. We will certainly not hear. We've not heard the end of Alex Jones, but is Infowars? That's it for Infowars?
I mean, he could still just pull open a laptop and broadcast. So I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But if it's the end of Infowars, then rest in piss or puss.
Oh wait, hold on. Someone just said, "Wait, I have a super chat." I read the last super chat. I don't see any more super chats.
Who said that?
Over on Twitch, maybe. Let me check over on Twitch. I got rated by Devil's Advocate Productions. Thank you. That was almost 4 hours ago. Wow, thank you. Marvelman15 subscribe with Prime over on twitch.tv/MattBinder. And that's it. I don't see any more super chats. Who did I not?
Uh,
Are you sending one and you're trying
I
to
don't
get us to stick around so
see.
you could get it to me? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
But no, I think we read it all.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
All right,
You
let's
want to raid
see.
Ravana?
Hold on. Who's on? Ravana? Is she still
Yeah.
on?
She's on.
Where? I don't see her. I don't think she's on anymore.
Oh, okay.
You see her? I don't.
Yeah, I see her. Let me refresh just to make sure.
She's not
Okay,
on.
yeah. I refreshed and she's gone.
She must have just ended her stream.
Dang. Well, there is Amy C3. We haven't rated her in a while.
We could rate Amy C3. Where
She's
is
a good
Amy C3?
person to send our Twitch viewers to. I don't have many, but
Yeah, let's do that. Hold on, let me just queue it up.
oh, here we go. Hey Matt,
wait,
hi
there's
from the
one more.
Bronx.
Super Platano man. Hi, hey Matt. Hi from the Bronx. I remember you in your band days. Whoa, awesome! Wow. We got to talk. Reach out during my stream, and we'll see what you know me from. And cool. Wow. All right, ready to raid?
Let's do it.
Oh wait, where is my? I lost the thing. Oh, I forgot to press the start raid button. Did you do it already?
I already rated her. Yeah.
All right, hold on. 7, 6, 5. All right, everybody. Take care. Have a great night. Hold on, I'm hitting it right now.
Take care, everyone.